Tawheed session 33. The date is the 12th of May 2025. We are on page 122, chapter 15
of the second book,
of the second book,
second volume, yeah.
second volume. Chapter 15, the verse, if there were other gods. To conclude the study of the verse containing al-Tamanu and that of the verse of al-Fasad, it is pertinent to carefully study the words of His Majesty, may he be glorified and exalted, where he has said, say, if there were other gods along with him, as they are, and as they say there are, then they would have tried to find a way to the Lord of the throne. Cited in the tafsir of As-Samani, in the following is of note, and he has said they would have tried to find a way to the Lord of the throne. Contained therein are two interpretations of the statement, the first of which is that they seek to obtain a pathway to the Lord of the throne in an attempt to gain closeness to him. The other, which is more appropriate, if they were to seek a way to pursuant to the possessor of the throne, finding that way in order to prevail and gain dominance in pursuit of the kingdom. Indeed, there is similar to where he, the Almighty, has said, if there had been any gods but him, both heavens and earth would be in ruins. It is also cited also in Adwa al-Bayan. The majority of the readers have cited the verse Kama taqulun with a ta of address. The recitation of Ibn Kathir and Hafs from Asim has Kama yaqulun with ya of hiddenness. Regarding the meaning of the noble verse, two interpretations exist, both of which statements are true, the Quran attesting to both. Within the meaning of this noble Quranic verse, there are two modes or aspects of interpretation, both of which are true, being attested to by the text of the book, the entirety of which is manifestly true. So this is diacritical marks between ta and ya, yeah?
Which one?
This is diacritical marks between kama yakulun and kama taqulun.
No, it's not diacritic, it's different. It's punctuation of the letters.
Okay. I thought it
Between
was,
ka and ya. That's not diacritic. There's no dhamma, fatha,
oh,
kasra.
I see, I see, I see. Okay.
Yeah,
So,
it can be read كما تقولون or كما يقولون. There's various places in the Quran like that. You can make the address to the addressee or the address or the verb to the addressee or the verb to the absentee. Plural. كما تقولون as you say. كما يقولون as they say. They and you. In this situation, both are possible and both has been read. What did he say? Who has read? Just check quickly once more.
both of the statements are true, Quran attesting to both.
No, at the beginning he said the Hafs and so on read.
Ibn Kathir and Hafs from Asim has kama yakulun with ya of hiddenness regarding the both of.
And the other تقولون. So yeah. تقولون is preferable because it's the Madani and the Basri. Anyway. Carry on. Where you stopped. I'm just verifying. I remember hearing that, but I want to just double check.
The first of the two interpretations as mentioned is that the meaning of the noble verse is, if there were other gods with Allah as claimed by the kuffar, they would seek a means to him. In other words, meaning that the alleged gods would be seeking to find a way to the throne, meaning Allah, in order to try and defeat him, to try and remove his dominion, as they would then be his partners. This is similar to what earthly kings have done to each other. Glory be to Allah who is exalted and far above what they claim. This interpretation of the verse seems manifestly apparent, and it is the meaning which comes to mind when considering other verses that support this interpretation, such as where He, the Almighty, has said, Allah has never had a child, nor is there any God beside him. If there were, each God would have taken his creation aside and tried to overcome the others. May Allah be exalted above what they describe. And that is Quran 23:91. Next verse, if there were other gods along with him, as they say they are, then they would have tried to find a way to the Lord of the throne. And that is 17:42. The intended meaning of this verse has been narrated from Ibn Abbas, Sa'id bin Jubair, Abu Ali al-Farisi, al-Nakhash, Abu Mansur, and other scholars from
Nakhash or Nahas?
It's the Kha, he's got a Kha there.
Okay.
I can double check. Abu Mansur and other scholars from the Mutakallimin.
Mhm.
The second latter aspect of the meaning of the noble verse is that the phrase "find a way to the Lord of the throne" carries a meaning that it is a means and method by which to approach him in order to recognize his favor. That is indicated by his saying, "May he be exalted." Those angels they pray or are themselves seeking a way to their Lord, even those who are closest to him. They hope for his mercy and fear his punishment.
Mhm.
This is narrated from Qatada, being also that which was highlighted by Ibn Kathir in his tafsir. Without
Mhm.
doubt, the apparent meaning that springs to mind from the verse, according to the Arabic language, is the first statement, because the
Yeah.
verse implies an impossibility. The impossible assumption that there are gods besides Allah seeking a share with him. This does not apply this does not imply an approach to him, but rather a conflict with him
Yeah.
if they were
Mhm.
to exist. However, in reality, they have no existence, being impossible to exist in the first place, and all knowledge is with Allah the Exalted. It
So
is
this is an Adwa al-Bayan. This is written by Shanqiti, who died in the 70s. So he's a contemporary. He doesn't mention Ibn Taymiyyah. He doesn't know to have conflict with because he was teaching in his later years in the University of Imam Muhammad Saud Riyadh. So he's avoiding that. But he's clearly saying that the first meaning that sabila, it must be meaning they will try to defeat the Lord of the throne or remove him from the throne. That's the more correct meaning. And this is narrated, as he said, from Ibn Abbas and so on, and he mentioned some mutakallimin. Indirectly saying, ignore Ibn Taymiyyah, he doesn't know what to say. The other definition comes from Qatada, who is a weighty person, but he's from the Tabi'in. And Ibn Kathir and advocate that because Ibn Kathir is the Talmid of Ibn Taymiyyah. So he's essentially pre-Wahhabi, is a Taymawi. So you don't expect him to liberate himself from these ideas. And then in that case, you have to define fasad is because they were worshipping someone else. Fasad, Allah will cause corruption for the worshipper and things like that, which is obviously does not make any sense. But maybe another way is to open the Mus'haf and see the ayahs before and after. It is clear that it is related to competition between the gods. It's not that there. And Qatada taking clue from the the angels who the mushrikeen believe they are divine. Allah is refuting them by saying they are not divine. They're actually servants and slaves who are doing their utmost best to come close to Allah and gain His favor. So how can they become divine and you are worshipping them or enslaving yourselves to them? So this is responding to the mushrikeen, refuting their point of view. It's not testifying that this is true or anything like that. So Qatada is almost manifestly definitely wrong, and Ibn Kathir and Ibn Taymiyyah in that.
It is important, though, to consider the context in which the verse appears.
Yeah.
The collection of verses demonstrates this most eloquently, since the Exalted says, This is some of the wisdom your Lord has revealed to you. Do not set up another God beside him, or you will be thrown into hell, blamed and rejected. That's 1757, I think.
There's an ayah before, and then it continues. And then
What has your Lord favored you? What has your Lord favored you, people, with sons and taken daughters for himself from the angels? What a monstrous thing for you to say. We have explained things in various ways in this Quran, so that such people might take notice, but it has only turned them further away. Say, if there were other gods along with him, as they say there are, then they would have tried to find a way to the Lord of the throne. Glory to him. He is above what they say. The seven heavens and the earth and every one in them glorify him. There is not a single thing that does not celebrate his praise, though. Here, Allah denies their claims based upon their lies, fabrication, and falsehood, that the angels are divine beings, feminine and posited as the daughters of Allah. This matter will be addressed exhaustively in due course. I would argue that it is of no surprise that the extremist sect of Wahhabism has concurred upon the claim that the means of approach is one that seeks closeness, harmony, and not of disagreement and conflict. They believe it conforms to the falsehoods they have adopted, despite the fact it is tenuous. The truth is that it is completely false, with no real debate
Yeah,
concerning
if you
it.
say the context and the second point of view that is there will find a way to the Lord of Throne, meaning they want to approach him to please him and so on, is vacuous, is nonsensical. That can't be the case. Because in the context, it's clearly denying that there are angels who are divine being, and this is so if there were other real gods beside him, they will try to unseat the Lord of the Throne. They won't approach him for please him and so on. So forget about that. That's already answered in the ayah before. There are no divine sons or daughters anyway, and it's the only time which you could imagine that enslave yourself to them, bring them close to them, and they bring close to Allah because they are the beloved daughters and children or the beloved son or things like that. But they don't exist. So only the first meaning makes sense. It's another form of ayat al-Tamanu. But in a summarized version, the other one is the more expanded logical discourse version. Okay?
The truth is that it is completely false, with no real debate concerning it, when evidenced by the following proofs. Number one, it will lead to the invalidation of the argument made by Allah against the mushrikeen, or some of them who said of their gods, we only worship them because they bring us nearer to God. And that's Quran 39:3. They would have the retort, this is exactly what we mean. Our gods used to and still do approach the Lord of the Throne by seeking every means to reach him, be that by submission, imploring him, or seeking closeness. This is in order to achieve his satisfaction. So we approach him by approaching them. If such an absurdity were true, it would end up invalidating the very principle of Tawheed. May Allah protect us from such a thing. Number two, it is an anomalous saying of Qatada from the early Salaf. There is a disagreement regarding it from Ibn Abbas and Sa'id ibn Jubair, who are far more versed in the text of the Quran and language of the Arabs. Thereafter, it has been opposed by the ijma' of the later scholars, particularly among the mutakallimin. Number three, the speech of Allah does not contain contradictions, so this verse must be in harmony with the verses of al-Tamanu and al-Fasad, which require that the gods are either A, the type that creates by its own independent power and dominance, which surpasses others, subduing them by its own independent power without competition or defeat. This type would be considered ancient, though there implies a sense of aloofness in all circumstances of agreement or disagreement.
That's an impossibility, yeah. That's by either Tamanu and Surah Al-Mu'mineen. It's gone, finished, yeah. And then it was the other type. Carry on.
B, or a created being which nonetheless either has complete infinite power within themselves, is an enemy of Allah and opposes him in every way, be that by rebellion, seeking to deceive him and trying to obfuscate his command, or it has the power equal to the power of Allah, even if only in some limited acts, such as being able to escape Allah by flight. In any case, the only appropriate response is to abstain. There would be no meaning in seeking a way or means of approach to the throne of Allah by way of closeness.
Yeah. That's the other type, like the dualist and the Zarathustra, and they say the devil is a created being, but an obscure theory of creation, a bad idea jumped out, and things like that.
And also, the Quraysh you mentioned previously, they believe that the jinns could escape Allah's judgment.
Something like that. All of this mess with the mushrikeen regard as some kind of divinity, and even those, if they existed, they will try to challenge Allah at least in a certain aspect, and in that case, also the heaven and earth will have some kind of corruption, at least in the limited sense. So when Ibn Taymiyyah said, Allah said, the first data, and then you say they do not exist, in his mind, only the first type. But there's a second type. Mushrikeen have that. We have the Zoroastrian, we have the dualist, we have the worshipper of Mithra, we have that definitely. So Ibn Taymiyyah is even ignorant about the type of the shirk of other people in that. So he thought that the only possibility is the one in Surah Al-Mu'minun, which is really an ancient and eternal being, etc. Qadim or eternal. Ancient is similar. When I say ancient, it's the same like eternal. Qadim. So that's what fooled Ibn Taymiyyah, if he's really, and led him also to this funny definition of ibadah and so on, and the uluhiyyah and the rububiyyah. But the ayah has nothing to do with that. It's really about tamanu, but a partial tamanu. They did not exist when the universe is created, but they existed, they came to existence after that, and they have certain power in certain areas, so they can undermine Allah, universe in some sense or another. It will corrupt it in some sense, at least. So the Ibn Taymiyyah's claim, he said they were corrupted, but they do not disappear, does not apply, because I'm not talking about those ancient, eternal being, which will block Allah's action from the beginning. So no universe will exist. No. It's already universe already made, and then this bad idea of this shaitan rebelled and started trying to doing some fasad by opposing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And nowhere is something that they are trying to please Allah and come close to Him. That's completely nonsensical. That's answered in the ayahs about Malaika. So that's the problem with Taymiyyah. But he's evidently ignorant about some type of shirk. Like, for example, he's ignorant even, which is really blatant and shocking, he's ignorant about the Trinity. He thought the Trinity is Allah, Isa, and Maryam. That's not the Trinity, something else. Trinity is Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. And the Quran says clearly, وَلَا تَقُولُوا ثَلَاثَةً إِنَّمَا اللَّهُ إِلَهٌ وَاحِدٌ. Allah is only one deity, not three deities in one substance or something like that. It's clear. It's utterly clear. But even there, he is ignorant. So his follower make him big on a worldwide minimum philosophical figure. Is in this area, he's definitely deficient, manifestly deficient. Okay, carry on.
C. Or is it a being born of another God, considered divine as a divine species or genus? It cannot have independent power of creation or independent superiority and dominion or independent will and choice. Otherwise, there would inevitably be contradictions arising and conflict. Therefore, its creation is only that of the creation from its Father, if it were to create at all. The will being that of the Father, if there is a will at all. Reaching the ultimate proximity would be to the extent that the entries are two faces of one and the same thing.
That's the phrase, essentially, yeah. Which is impossible on other grounds, but this will be the case. There will be no issue of he wants to approach the Father or not approach the Father. He has no other choice whatsoever. He is, by design, completely submissive and under the Father, Isa and the Holy Spirit. By design, completely. It doesn't come in their, according to the theory of Trinity, it doesn't come in their mind or in the mind of the Father that they will rebel or approach or do anything else. And coming close to Him, they're already close. They're part of Him. So again, this type does not fit in the ayah anyway. You see the blunder of Ibn Taymiyyah in the ayah, trying to make it that if you worship something beside Allah, you will be corrupted, your heart will be corrupted, and your life will be corrupted. That's the definition of that, which is blatantly wrong. Okay?
Does it not fit linguistically as well? I mean, is he just making a mechanism to fit linguistically?
It doesn't fit, because if you look at the context, it can't be. It can't be. And if you divide things cleanly like that, what you do, A, B, C, you will see it's not possible.
I'm just wondering how
the type of divine son, this son is part of his Father. He's absolutely submissive, absolutely close. He doesn't feel closer. He is a part of his Father. They share the same substance. He doesn't need to do anything to come close. He's already infinitely close. Closer cannot get anyway.
Like a
so there's no way that he will try to find the way to the Lord of the Throne, because there's already part of the Lord of the Throne. This type is excluded by other consideration. Lam yalid wa lam yulad in the and the denial of Allah that he has a son, a divine son. But there's also philosophical discussion, deep discussion, which shows that it in Surah Qul Huwa Allah, that is settled. I think we will come to it, what the meaning of Samad. Samad meaning solid, having no gaps. But if you have a son, there is some kind of a gap, some kind of a separation. That's impossible. So the son is exactly the father. So the Trinity say the son is not the father, but they share a substance. It's not possible. There's no divine substance. It's impossible. That's just an abstraction, abstracting something which cannot possibly exist. Because there can be only one necessary existing being. So you cannot talk about substance or a shared attributes, because there is none to share with. And that's قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. But this he has blundered because he established his rububiyyah and uluhiyyah and shot himself in the foot. And there's no way he can get out of that except by going back to the drawing board and erase all this rubbish. That's the only way. And that's what we're doing in this book. That's it. To go to square zero and show them this is, you're just stuck in a nightmare. Wake up. And sometimes if you are in a nightmare, someone standing next to you and hear you screaming, he has to slap you hard on the bum so that you wake up. So that's what we are doing. We're slapping hard on the bum. That's it. There's no other way to do it. It's a nightmare. Carry on.
Such a species cannot be intended here, because it is as if he himself is the owner of the throne, that it would have completely reached its destination and purpose. Hence it would be impossible for that entity born of a god to be originally among those who seek a way to the owner of the throne.
Because they're already there by design, by beginning. They're already there eternally. If Trinity is true, but obviously it's just an imagination. They don't exist. But if something like assume it exists, then the claim they will try to find the way to the Lord of the Throne to appease him does not make any sense, because they're already part of the Lord of the Throne. They're absolutely connected to him and absolutely submissive to him as a son or as a Holy Spirit, for example. I mention the example of Trinity because this is the one, essentially the only one in the world of this type. All others are like Mithraism, Zardashtian. It is some kind of a devil who is, in most theories, not all of them, is a created being, or started to exist after the universe have been created because a bad idea or some whatever blah 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 they have, and that will cause facade. If eternal from the beginning, then no creation will happen. That's it.
Yes, Professor. So basically, the Mushrikeen did not only have gods that are in their imagination trying to appease the Lord, but other Mushrikeen they also have different types of gods that are trying to challenge the Lord.
That's the main one. That's the main one. The type which appeases Allah say doesn't exist. That's your imagination. It's impossible. Because they cannot be of divine origin, and they are slaves created slave, and they're submissive and they're supplicant to them. So it's not divine.
Yes. So perhaps also another form of ayat al-Tamanu. Check this one out. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he says in Surah Al-Anbiya, إنكم وما تعبدون من دون الله حسب جهنم أنتم لها واردون. So you are the fuel of hell. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he says, لو كان هؤلاء آلهة ما وردوها وكل فيها خالدون. So if these were
that's another issue. Leave that to its good time. That's the one you worship will be in Jahannam. Is either stones. In reality, they have no divinity, although they claim they are divine by contact and by a connection, but they are really, in reality, stones. So they will be dumped in hellfire as a fuel for the hellfire. Or they are persons who ask the people to appoint them lords beside Allah, like Pharaoh, and these will be dumped in the hellfire. That's it.
Yes. Yes, but the ayah says if they were true gods, then
no. It's kind of aliha. Aliha here is the mere lords, because the supreme lord is also an ilah. Combine that with اتخذوا أحبارهم ورهبانهم أربابا من دون الله والمسيح ابن مريم وأمروا يعبدوا إلها واحدا. If you make some Rabb beside Allah, he is also ilah.
Yes, understood. But these mushrikeen, they presume.
Don't worry about mushrikeen. if you appoint someone to be the legislator, the ultimate legislator, you made him a Lord beside Allah, and being a Lord beside Allah, he's an Ilah beside Allah.
Indeed, he's an. That's in their imagination that these are
No. They definitely they exist. They are Ilah, like Fir'aun beside Allah, and they will be dumped in the hellfire.
Yeah,
but they are genuinely not lords and not Ilah. If they were genuinely lords, they would not end in the hellfire. That's the meaning of the ayah. So it's not a tamanu there. It's
no. Some mufassirin actually say that the meaning of لو كان هؤلاء آلهة ما وردوها is talking about the mushrikeen, the polytheists. That if they were true lords, you wouldn't have entered.
No. Read the ayah. وكلهم فيها خالدون. You and your false deity. No, it's not. This is a twisted point of view. It's not correct. Just read before and after. As usual, read the ayahs before and the ayahs after. It will illuminate. Like ayat al-fasad. We read before and after, we clarify the issues. The same here. It's another issue.
Okay, I'll try to get some tafsir here because I'm sure that I have read it somewhere.
And that's the reason they came. Read it again. That's the reason they came. Say, oh, now we quote Muhammad by error. What's about Isa ibn Maryam? Is he in the hellfire? You claim he's a prophet. He will not go into the hellfire. And the Quran responds to them, إن هو عبد أنعمنا عليه وجعله مثل لبني إسرائيل. He's a slave and he never calls anybody to worship him. So he's not an idol, nor he's calling someone to worship him. So why he should go to the hellfire? You made him divine by your imagination, but he never said that. And that's the reason Allah asked, did you tell the people to appoint you or your mother divine beside Allah? سبحانك ما يكون لي أن أقول ما ليس بحق. I never said it. If I said it, you have known it. You are witness to all the things. They invented that from their imagination. So the mushrikeen failed in the counter argument.
Yes. So I understood the ayah that if Jesus or any other type of gods that these polytheists are imagining that they are divine, they would have interceded or challenged Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to take these polytheists out of hell, to remove them out of hell.
No, because كلهم فيها. They will be themselves in hell. That's what I read the ayah again, Abu Muhammad. Don't be in a hurry because you may have read someone who's a Wahhabi or Taimawi and they wrote a rubbish and you did not look very sharp. The problem is that people read things which they think it's there. Instead of letting the text lead them, they lead the text. And this is the way of demise, the way of decline.
Okay.
That's the way of decline. Read it again, read the ayah before and after.
Yes, okay.
That's it. Those we worship beside Allah, the idols, for example, made of stone, they believe that they're not just a temthal, it's not just a statue or effigy. No. This is a divine by contact and connection. Allah said, this is not true, just a piece of stone. That piece of stone has suffered no pain, feels nothing. It will be a fuel of the hellfire. It will be dumped in front of you on Al-Qiyamah. And people who invited people to worship them, like Fir'aun, they will be also dumped in Yawm Al-Qiyamah. If they were really lords beside Allah, they wouldn't have ended the hellfire.
So check this one. Al-Tabari here in his tafsir argues the same point that I'm trying to argue. He says in his tafsir, لو كان ما تعبدون من دون الله آلهة ما وردوها بل كانت تمنع من أراد أن يوردكموها إذا كنتم لها في الدنيا عابدين. So these
he's wrong because he did not take care of the rest of the ayah. وكل فيها خالدون. Both the worshipper and the worshipped. Tabari missed that.
Yeah. Yes, indeed. He made tafsir وكل فيها خالدون. He says يعني الآلهة ومن عبدها both.
So what about the first part? What is the first part he said? He did not connect it properly. He did not look sharply. He's a great scholar, but you are not infallible. You may make a mistake. Okay, mistake made, correct. And in this case, Aliha there is either of the two types. The idols, because they believe they are divine in the sense that they are connector and by contact. Allah said there's no connection and no contact. It's just a piece of stone. You thought it has connection, has divinity. And we show you on the Qiyamah, they will be dumped in the hellfire. They have no sense, no feeling, nothing. And people who invited them, other people to appoint them Lord beside Allah. Because these guys will not say that we are creating the universe. They say we have the right to legislation. Like
we are the lords. We are
like being a supreme lord is meaning being divine. That's one meaning of the divinity. Actually, it's the peak of divinity. Supreme Lord should be allocated. Supreme Lordship is necessarily only connected to a divine being. But they have disconnected it. Pharaoh has disconnected it. He never told the people, I created you or your fathers. Everyone knows they're born yesterday. You know that. Everyone knows. But I am the supreme. I can order and make laws the way I wish. My will is ultimate and the ultimate reference frame. And this one, inviting the people, Yom Al-Qiyamah, he's a kafir, invite him to appoint him a Lord. He will be damned with those who gave him this, believe that he has this authority, all of them, in him and his follower, in their fire. If you see the picture, it will eliminate your mind. Probably missed this way. He missed, in other places, he missed something even worse. When we go to Hakimiyya, he blundered very badly.
Yeah.
But that's, again, we come to that. So there were some blunders, very early also.
So I guess what you're trying to say is Ma Waraduha is talking about these gods themselves.
وَكُلٌّ فِيهَا خَالِدُونَ. But Ma Waraduha is about those who appointed themselves Lord beside Allah, or those who be declared to be deities by contact and connection, but they are actually just stones or effigies.
But then that doesn't negate the saying of Tabari, because he's arguing that if these were people,
yeah, but he said the end one contradicts the first one. It negates the purpose.
Oh yeah, in the first one
the purpose of the ayah is to tell them your idols are not connected to any divine being in the stars or anything. It's just statues you declare to be divine. So in Yom Al-Qiyamah, being stones, they have no feeling, no sense. They can be fuel for the hellfire. No problem. Putting them in the hellfire like fuel is absolutely no problem. They are not punishing for anything. Or the other type, the one who said, accept me as Lord beside Allah, as Lord Supreme, like Pharaoh, Ana Rabbukum al-A'la. This one will be brought Yom Al-Qiyamah. Is this Rabbukum al-A'la? You gave him this authority, believe in this authority. Both of you will go in the hellfire. If he were really the Lord Supreme, he would have been able to escape the hellfire. He is not. And that's the reason the Mushrikeen say, oh, we caught Muhammad by surprise. What's about Isa? Until Isa does not follow. Neither the first one, he's not an effigy of stone. Secondly, he never told the people, I am your Lord Supreme. Never. So why should he go to the hellfire?
So Ma Waraduha, yes. So Ma Waraduha, they would have escaped hellfire. It talks about both. The one who
it actually talks about the idols or the gods.
The idols, okay.
Yeah, that's the main thing. And then the Quran make clear وَكُلٌّ فِيهَا خَالِدُونَ. The one who appointed themselves Lord beside Allah, all the stones which are irrelevant, they can go in the fire like any material. It's just like fuel. You can put gasoline. Gasoline is not punished by this. It has no feeling, has no psychology, no mind, and so on. So you can put it.
Okay.
No problem with that. And the worshipper also, they go in the hellfire. So both parties. The first part is related only to the Aliha or the Supreme Lord.
Aliha, yes.
And the Aliha Elohiyya there is meaning definitely the Supreme Lord.
Supreme Lord, the one that has divine characteristics. And
a claim for himself. That's what makes him then worthy of punishment to the hellfire. That's it.
Okay.
Not that someone claimed for him, like Isa. Allah said, no, he's just a servant. And we make him an example of Bani Israel. Did he ever say, I am your Supreme Lord? Bring me evidence. He has not said. Even in the current things they have in their hand, he never said that I am the Supreme Lord. Or I am divine. He never said that. Check it and you will see. Even in the corrupted books they have in their hand, he never said.
Yeah. So Isa, even if he was worshipped or taken as a divine,
it's irrelevant. It's irrelevant.
It's irrelevant. Not included in this.
Either it is a stone which people declare to be divine by their imagination, and the stone can go in the hellfire. It is not. It's not mukallaf. It has no pain. It's not a punishment. It's
nothing. Yes.
It's a material. And the other one is a being, a person who said, "I am the Lord Supreme." But he is not. Because the Lord Supreme is only one, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yawm al-Qiyamah, is that you Lord Supreme? Let him protect himself and you from there. Both of you to the hellfire. That's it. Simple.
Yes, but there are third types of ilah. Is those polytheists?
This ayah does not cover that. The ayah covers these two types.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Only the
Only these two types of
idols and the one like Fir'aun and ربكم الأعلى.
Got you. Okay.
That's it. Other types are covered in other places in the Quran.
Because I was going to ask you then what can we do with Isa who was worshipped? What can we do with, for example,
we are dealing with it now in Ayat al-Fasad.
Okay. Got
and the ayah before. You have to get all of them together.
Yes, okay.
Because shirk is very complex and various variations. One ayah may not capable of covering everything. Even Ayat al-Tamanu, ما اتخذ الله من ولد ما كان معه من إله, relates to divine son. And you can exclude that, but this is philosophically very deep. So it's enough here to Allah said, I don't have son. You claim I have a son, the genuinely divine son. I gave birth to genuinely divine son. I'm saying that's not true. And because the father is supposed to be happy with his son and declare if he has a son, say, I have a son indeed. So he's denying that. Or the other one in this ayah is enough, the denial. That it cannot exist, it's an impossibility, that has to be argued with Qul Huwallahu Ahad. And the other type is eternal beings who can compete with each other and can undermine, so no universe can be created. The Fasad mentioned the third type, which are created beings, but they rebelled and were able to undermine Allah's design and fight him. Like
and
the
challenge his commands.
And the third type, that's the Zoroastrian and so on. Most Christian, most dualists, because some dualists say the devil is also eternal.
Yes, essentially, honestly, I thought this ayah, ma waraduha, is part of this, like dualistic religion.
No. It is only these two things I mentioned.
Only two things. Okay.
And if you look at these all comprehensive type, then you see this relate to these things and so on.
Okay, got
Mostly the direct addressee is the idols and those who invite people, even tribal chieftains in Mecca, who claim that they make the law and they fix what is right and wrong. That's also laws beside Allah. Although many people do not recognize that easily because the concept of divinity is wrong. Like Adi ibn Hatim, when he came and heard the Prophet I'm reading, وَاتَّخَذُوا أَحْبَارَهُمْ وَرُهْبَانَهُمْ أَرْبَابًا مِنْ دُونِ اللَّهِ. He stopped. So, no, they don't worship them because in his mind there's some kind. And the Prophet explained what's the meaning of worship. Don't they permit the prohibited and so on? Legislate? Say yes, say فَتِلْكَ عِبَادَتُهُمْ. That's their worship. That's the way you enslave yourself to them. And the Quran after that said, وَالْمَسِيحَ ابْنُ مَرْيَمْ, this is worship on other grounds, that he is a divine essence or something like that.
Another type, yes.
And then for all of them, the command said, وَمَا أُمِرُوا إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُوا إِلَهًا وَاحِدًا. They have been commanded to enslave themselves. I will not use the word worship. Enslave themselves, become abid for one divine being. So the Lord beside Allah is also divine in that sense. It's actually the peak of divinity. Hakimiyya is the peak of Tawheed, not something separate from Tawheed.
Yes.
So when you see a book for some of Madkhali and Jami saying At-Tawheed أولا قبل الحاكمية or something, you're dealing with a donkey in human shape. That's it. Nothing.
Yes.
If not someone who's covered genuinely directly, but most these are donkeys in human shape.
Yes, I was going to argue for this topic specifically that uluhiyya and rububiyyah cannot be separated. Even Ibn Abdul Wahab.
We'll come to that ad nauseum. All the books is about that. Don't worry. We'll get bit by bit, one by one. We grind forward.
Yes, and I'm going to read you two of the statements of Ibn Abdul Wahab.
We'll get more. We'll get more later.
He was caught red-handed.
We'll get more and worse later. We are grinding forward step by step.
Yes, inshallah. Okay, we'll continue, inshallah.
Yeah, that's the way to go. Because if you rush forward, you will create confusion by some people. But if you're grinding like that, bit by bit, step by step, you build a solid base based on certitude and necessity of reason and necessity of the text. And then you can build on that and flesh it out and so on. Okay? That's so. Well, we are proceeding. So this is Ayat al-Fasad, A, B, C. What else is remaining there, Rash?
Yes, a few pages, couple of 2 pages, just a page and a half left.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, it's just continue reading.
Yeah.
I
So
thought to
point
go
C.
on to another chapter. Yeah. Mhm.
Hence, it would be impossible for that deity, for that entity born of a god to be originally among those who seek a way to the owner of the throne, being already there.
Mhm.
Such existence is invalidated by other evidence, including the previous verse in the same context, namely, what has your Lord favored you, people with sons, and taken daughters for himself from the angels? What a monstrous thing for you to say. And that's Quran 1740. In any event, this is the main body text. In any event, the aforementioned discussion is but a short glimpse into the most important issues that relate to Tawheed al-Rabb. Glorified is his name, exalted is his station. What is set out here is a generic summary. In order to expand upon the topic at hand would require a separate volume in itself, which is beyond the scope for the present work.
I prefer the illustration with station is not nice. What it says, exalted is what?
I'm sorry.
Just few words.
Exalted is his station.
No, so exalted is his rank, not station, maqam. Elevation or rank, not station.
Okay.
I don't know where they missed that translated maqam.
That does work linguistically. Station, rank is quite similar in English.
No, but what we meaning the rank. We mean the abstract, intellectual ranking, not a station, a position where you are. Because usually station is related to station of a train, station of a something.
Or status. I think it can also include status.
Status, but not station. Yeah.
The station is synonymous, if I'm not mistaken, with station.
No, it's slightly different. Anyway, no problem. I prefer to say rank there.
Okay.
Maqam.
What is okay? I'll make a note of that. I made a note. What is set out here is a generic summary. In order to expand upon the topic at hand would require a separate volume in itself, which is beyond scope for the present work. We ask Allah to give us the health, mental well-being, and life to complete such a task. There is no God except Allah, upon Him we trust and rely. Prior to outlining the overview of the evidence which established that Muhammad sallallahu peace and blessed be upon him, is a messenger of Allah, it is important to refute a satanic misconception that the text of the Quran implies the possibility that there could be another God except Allah. Naturally, such a claim is baseless and insidious. We seek refuge to Allah from such an evil statement. So basically, the next chapter will bring us to the point of where we go into the messenger.
So we have the Tamanu in Surah Al-Mu'minun excluding a son by reporting there is no son. So you expect the father, if he has a son, to be proud and announce that. So that's not possible. Assuming the Quran is from Allah in the first place. And the second part is a rational argument that there could not be of equal eternity and so on, and equal by infinite powers, because they will block each other. So no universe and no creation can be done. The Ayat al-Fasad study the other issue, again, sons, which are usually in the Mushrikeen of Arabia, they are female, angels and so on. They don't exist. Allah is denying that and says they are saying something outrageous. Or being who emerged in existence later, so it's supposed to be under complete control of Allah, but somehow the Mushrikeen is capable of imagining that the created being suddenly rebels and at least undermine or damage some of Allah's action. So these will cause corruption. And every time you say they cause corruption, but they don't cause non-existence, because they are created. But rationally, a created being would not be able to confront Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala because he's finite power. It's impossible to have infinite power. But they try to stop them and say it's actually a divine idea which separated and became something. And all of these, that blah, 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 but even that will lead. And look at the universe, there's no corruption. It's well-tuned, correct. So it can't be. So the universe exists, so cannot be eternal beings who compete in creation. It's impossible. And it exists without corruption. It's fine-tuned. The system is clear and exact, following certain fixed and clear rules, unless the divine steps in and do a miracle. And there's no corruption in that sense. So this other type does not exist. That's another Tamanu. But this is also excluded by necessity of reason that any created finite being is impossible. It is impossible for such a being to have infinite power, and hence he cannot never ever confront Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and do corruption in the universe, or does something which Allah does not want against Allah's will. That's impossible. So that's excluded other reason. So the Quran treats all cases from the most trivial to the most complex. And then we go to the divine essence, that there may be divine persona, all eternal and completely happy with each other, like the Trinity. And that's not possible because there's nothing called divine essence which can be shared. There's only one being. Essence, if we have selected, if many human beings say, oh, there's something called humanity, which something is actually abstraction. It does not exist outside to any reasonable way. There is an abstraction in the mind that all these Rash, Mas'ari, Zayd, Ubaid, Imran, Ali, and so on, they share certain characteristics we call humanity. We call it substance of humanity, or the attributes of humanity, because they're multiple persons. We extract from that something called the essence, because they're contingent. They can have a variation. And the essential existing being is only one, nothing to be extracted. If he has no what if, or he has no what is, or he has no quiddity. It's only being, pure being, nothing else. And one of that only. So there can't be other deities. That's a more fundamental in that sense. And any created entity from such a being will never be able to confront Allah and escape from his hand. It's impossible. Although some mushrikeen believe this possible, some believe that the jinn can run away from Allah. Even the jinn said that in Surah Al-Jinn. Iblis told us that we can run away from Allah. This means we can undermine Allah's power. We can do whatever we want. He cannot catch us. At least we can escape. So the jinn admitted that they have such beliefs going circulating, that Iblis tried to educate them this way. And they walk toward the reality. That's definitely وَأَنَّ ظَنَنَا كَمَا ظَنَنتُمْ أَن نُعْجِزَ اللَّهَ فِي الْأَرْضِ وَلَن نُعْجِزَهُ هَرَبًا. That's not possible. These guesswork some people claiming is just an imagination. It's impossible to exist. So all of that sorted out. It's only one eternal, necessarily existing divine being. And nothing else can escape his persuasion. And nothing else can act without his permission. At least they may act with their free will, but Allah has to permit them to act the way they want to act. Without such a permission, it's not going to happen even. Okay? I'll discuss that a bit in Qadr. Good?
Next chapter.
Yeah.
Page 128, chapter 16. Chapter 16, is the existence of another God possible?
Yeah. That's
in relation.
Carry on, yeah.
In relation to the two Quranic verses, which will be considered here, it could come to mind at first glance by some that the wording as expressed may not necessarily entail a clear prohibition of shirk. So, and there's a footnote here. Originally, the chapter is titled as the following in the Arabic edition, clarifying the meaning of the words of the Almighty. Whoever prays to another God alongside him, a God for whose existence he has no evidence. 23:117, and that you without his sanction associate things with him, and that you say things about him without knowledge, and similar verses. So this has been streamlined for the present translation.
It should have been in the body, really, because this is the main topic. This ayah is the main thing we're discussing. Because the ayah said, Ma anzal Allah bi sultan. Allah does not give authority for them to be divine. Someone say, if Allah gives authority to something, then it becomes divine. That's not the way to read it. That's the discussion is about that. Okay, carry on.
Moreover, the second verse under consideration may, to the casual reader, imply that there is somehow another God or deity in existence alongside Allah. May Allah forbid. This may, at the casual glance, come to mind particularly for non-Arabic speakers who haven't grasped the intricacies and nuances of the Arabic language. The text of the Quran, the Book of Allah, has been revealed in clear Arabic language, which reaches the ultimate level of eloquence and clarity. Hence, to dispel any notion regarding dangerous misconceptions of these two verses, a detailed review is required. Principally, the verses which require consideration here are the following. Whoever prays to another god alongside him, a god for whose existence he has no evidence. ومن يدعو مع الله إله آخر لا برهان
برهان له
له به.
به.
And next ayah, وأن تشركوا بالله ما لم ينزل به سلطانا. And that is 23. So the first one is 23:117. This one is 7:33, I think. And that you without his sanction associate things with him, and that you say things about him without knowledge. Perhaps one of the best ways is to study this is to begin this study is by way of reflection upon the blessed verses as revealed in Surah Al-Kahf. الحمد لله الذي ينزل على عبده الكتاب ولم يجعل له عوجا قيما لينذر بأسا شديدا من لدنه ويبشر المؤمنين الذين يعلمون الصالحات أن لهم أجرا حسنا ماكثين فيه أبدا وينذر الذين قالوا اتخذ الله ولدا ما لهم به من علم ولا لآبائهم كبرت كلمة تخرج من أفواههم إن يقولون إلا كذبا. Praise be to Allah who sent down the scripture to his servant and made it unerringly straight, warning of severe punishment from him and giving glad news to the believers who do good deeds, an excellent reward that they will always enjoy. It warns those people who assert Allah has offspring. They have no knowledge about this, nor did their forefathers. It is a monstrous assertion that comes out of their mouths. What they say is nothing but lies. And that's Surah that is Surah Al-Kahf, Surah 18:1-5. The following has been mentioned in the tafsir of the They have no knowledge about this, namely about having a son or taking one. It means that their statement was not born of actual knowledge, but rather stemming from excessive ignorance and the imitation of their forefathers, who had inherited this viewpoint from the delusions of the shaitan. If you were to say that Allah taking a child is inherently an impossibility, then how is it said they have no knowledge thereof? I would argue it means that they have no knowledge of it because it is not a matter that can be known, given it is an impossibility. The lack of knowledge about something is either because of ignorance of the path leading to it, or because it is inherently impossible, making it impossible for knowledge to be connected to it. Which is like saying shay. It's not a shay.
It is not a shay, yeah.
Note the last sentence, which Al-Zamakhshari mentions, and its critical importance. Next, the following is mentioned in the tafsir of Al-Razi. In the verse, there are some matters of inquiry. The first of which, know that the saying of the Almighty, it warns those people who assert Allah has offspring, 18 verse 4, co-joined to his statement, warning of severe punishment from him. The element which is co-joined must be different from that which it is co-joined with. So the first is general, upon whomsoever deserves the punishment. The second being specific, upon whomsoever purported to attribute a child to Allah. The usual practice in the Quran is that when a general statement is mentioned, some of its particulars are then conjoined to it to highlight that these are the most significant particulars of this general statement. For example, in his saying, his angels, his messengers, Gabriel and Michael, 298. Similarly, the conjunction here indicates
Surah Al-Baqarah, من كان عدوا لله وملائكته ورسله, and then he mentioned two malaika. They are mentioned already in the malaika, and there are also two messengers carrying from Allah messages. But he mentioned separately because the significance of the story was Jibreel or Mikael. Why? Because the dispute was about Jibreel and Mikael. The Jews said, who is the angel coming to you with the message? He said, Jibreel. Said, oh, this is our enemy under the angels. If it would have been Mikael, the nice one, we would accept. Anyway, so mentioning in the ayah, it should have been enough. One kind of who is the enemy of Allah, his messengers, would be enough. But mentioning Jibreel and Mikael specifically, of conjoining the specific to the general in this situation is necessary because of the story.
So linguistically, it's the
Totally
same as
necessary, but it's good because of the story specifically. Yeah.
so linguistically, is this similar to when, for example, Ati Allah, Ati or Rasul, wa ulil amri minkum, but Ati calling Ati, attaching that to the messenger, and then not having that adjunct conjoining with
No, but there is the stress of the word ati'u. That's something else. No, he has just you list things. The first one is general, encompassing the special ones which I mentioned after that. But you mention them separately as if they are separate entity, but they are already included in the first one, but they highlighted for some reasons, rhetoric reasons, philosophical
drawing
reasons.
attention to
Exactly like من كان عدوا لله وملائكته ورسله. That's enough. فإن الله عدو الكافرين. He said وجبريل وميكال. Special Rusul and special angels, because that was the discussion about Jibreel and Mikael.
Similarly, the conjunction here indicates that the most abhorrent types of kufr and masiyah, disobedience, are to attribute offspring to Allah the Almighty. The second issue relates to the fact that there are three groups who attributed offspring to Allah the Almighty. The first group are the disbelieving Arabs who said that the angels were the daughters of Allah. Second of the groups are the Christians who said that Christ is the son of Allah. Third is the group from the Jews who said that Ezra is the son of Allah.
Similar to Christ, yeah.
The discussions relate to the matter that those attributing offspring to Allah is a matter of great kufr, entailing significant impossibilities. Indeed, we have mentioned it in relation to Surah Al-An'am and the tafsir of where He the Almighty said, and without any true knowledge they attribute sons and daughters to Him. That's 6:100. Concluding the matter, it is mentioned further in Surah Maryam, then He the Almighty refutes the claim of those who attribute offspring to Allah in two respects. Firstly, He says, they have no knowledge about this, nor did their forefathers. If it is said that the matter of Allah taking a child is one which is inherently impossible, then how can it be said, see in the phrasing of the verse, they have no knowledge about this? In response, we say the lack of knowledge about something can be due to ignorance of the path leading to it, or it can be because it is inherently impossible.
Yeah.
Hence making it impossible for the knowledge to be connected to it.
To know about it, because it's impossible. It does not exist. It's not a shay. So knowledge cannot relate to that. That's also indirectly explained. Unfortunately, Al-Razi did not dare going in the issue of Qadar بكل شيء عليم, because he still have misconception in his mind that the future events are shay. They are not shay. They're impossible to know. Start with, unless they have decided by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so they have decided and created. That's what makes them come into existence, and they become knowledgeable, known by that. So he did not extend it that way, because the issue of the future event is a very sore issue. We have settled the thing completely and clearly, and also Quran and Sunnah settled it. Unfortunately, the guys did not want to read it. They stuck with their philosophical fallacy. Actually, the issue of time series and limits, which they didn't master properly. But anyway, here, so it is ما لهم به من علم, because essentially saying either one, there is no way to access knowledge because it's impossible, which is the truth, and the other one, they have no access to the way I set knowledge about that, which in this case is also true, but they don't have the necessary sophistication to recognize the impossibility. That's also so they say it without really any verification if does this exist or not. Good. So that's so the same we will apply now, that you should not worship anything which Allah has not sent out an authority of it, or which we worship a deity with whom you have no evidence and things like that. In the same meaning, it will come now.
Its counterpart is where He the Almighty said, whoever prays to another God alongside Him, a God for whose existence he has no evidence, and that's 23:117, know that the opponents of Qiyas cling to the verse and argue that it indicates speaking about the deen without requisite knowledge is batil, invalidated, and viewpoints derived of Qiyas is the discourse about the deen without knowledge. Thus
now he goes in Qiyas and so on. They love blubbering these things. That has to be analyzed differently. But anyway, continue until we get to the crucial point. Yeah.
That is their complete argument. It is mentioned where he says, do not follow blindly what you do not know to be true. And that's 1736, and they have no knowledge about this, nor did their forefathers, 1805. That is to say, none of their predecessors. This is an exaggeration of the fact that this matter is invalidated and corrupt. The second type is what Allah the Almighty mentioned, invalidating their discourse. He says it is a monstrous assertion that comes out of their mouth. What they say is nothing but lies, and that's 1805. Thereafter, Al-Razi goes on to comment with the following. The fourth point of research, where he says that comes out of their mouths, indicates that this discourse is utterly detestable to the mind. It is as if he says, this thing that they are speaking upon isn't judged by their intellect or thought, given that it is utterly corrupt and false. It merely flows from their tongues by way of imitation. Although they speak it, their intellect and thought at base is averse to it. Thereafter, Allah says, what they say is nothing but lies, and meaning manifestly apparent. Know that people have differed regarding the true nature of lying. According to us, it is a report which doesn't correspond to the reality it describes, whether the speaker believes it to be so or not. So that's qazabt. For example, Rasulullah says qazabt could be meaning the person deliberately lying or they're mistaken.
Yeah.
Some people have said that the condition for it to be a lie is that it does not correspond to the reality and the speaker knows it to be so. This condition, according to us, is invalid. The evidence for this is this verse, wherein Allah describes this statement, asserting that Allah has a child as a manifest lie, even though many of them say it without knowing it is false.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thus, we understand that any statement that does not correspond to the reality it describes is a lie, whether the speaker knows it to be falsehood or not.
Or he's lying deliberately. So deliberately or not deliberately doesn't matter. Does it correspond to the reality? Then it is true, or otherwise it's a lie. It's false. Yeah.
Similarly, it is also reflected in the tafsir by Muhammad ibn Abdul Shirbini, al-Siraj al-Munir. He wrote, no knowledge about this, the meaning being essentially that it is something that cannot be known because it doesn't exist and in actuality cannot possibly exist.
Yeah.
Therefore, Allah emphasized this meaning by saying, nor did their fathers, who they have taken pride in imitating concerning matters of religion, even for which no rational person can actually conceive of. Should they have made a mistake concerning a worldly matter, they wouldn't follow them in that. If it should be asked, given the notion of Allah taking a child is inherently impossible, how can it be said that they have no knowledge thereof? Here the answer is that the absence of knowledge of something can either be due to ignorance of the means to attain it, or because it is inherently impossible, and knowledge cannot actually pertain to it.
Perfect. Yeah.
The counterpart to that is the statement of the Almighty, where he said, whoever prays to another God alongside him, a God for whose existence he has no evidence. And that's 23:117. Analysis. This is your statement now. In general, the analysis provided by Al-Razi in the citations above and those who followed his broad theme are very good. The exception to that is where Al-Razi said there are three groups who attributed offspring to Allah the Almighty.
There are more groups than that, but this is secondary.
Although unless he was seeking to limit the scope of the discussion to the groups mentioned within the text of the verses at hand, one could argue that there is a tendency towards a slight lapse here. In actuality, the majority of the world's shirk, be that among the Indians, Romans, Greeks, Egyptians, or others, related to attributing offspring to Allah. Within a broader sense, many of these civilizations held that the notion of the divine is a type with multiple entities, or even a genus, with multiple species.
Yeah.
Despite affliction to this sect of Wahhabism, Sheikh Abdurrahman ibn Sa'di comprehended some of these points. In one of his works on tafsir, he wrote, this includes the statement of the Almighty to condemn those who made alongside Allah another God, and a refutation of such a lying claim, which is the foundation of idolatry, that these awliya and gods are the children of Allah because they are the light which emanated from him, taking human form, then returning to being light again. Thus, he says, they have no knowledge about this, nor did their forefathers.
Mhm.
Regretfully, the Sheikh didn't dwell further upon this,
Yeah.
upon this point.
But this is a singular. All the Wahhabi do not address that point at all as it doesn't exist, which shows you that they didn't read the Quran. They just read Ibn Taymiyyah, even a deficient and abridged reading, not even in its full, and not even interact with it in any critical way. And the Quran is just not being read. And if it's read with the closed eyes, which is not possible. But that's what they are doing. They see things there which are not there. And out of context and cutting the ayahs in parts and all of these things, which will come plenty of examples later, inshallah. Okay,
The
carry
Sheikh
on.
didn't dwell further upon this point, nor for that matter did he ask himself, is this the actual belief of those who his deviant Wahhabi sect label as being grave worshippers? Shackled by the chains which the sect imprisoned him with, he could not break free of this to strive towards the core truth. That much will become evident in the litany of references carried in the present work.
It will come, yeah. I'll bring horrifying quotes from Ibn Abdul Wahhab himself. Shocking quotations.
Would be good to spin off, inshallah. With regard to the critically important sentence, the lack of knowledge about something can be due to ignorance of the path leading to it, or it can be because it is inherently impossible, hence making it impossible for knowledge to be connected to it. It is indeed a rational necessity, ultimately stemming from the correct definition of knowledge. That was something which Al-Razi and Zamakhshari were attuned to. Broadly, it is prevalent in classical works after the era of Imam at-Tabari. By way of an example, can also be discerned in the tafsir of Al-Khazin. That is from his tafsir. If you say that Allah having a child as a matter which is inherently impossible, how can it be reasonably said they have no knowledge of such? I would argue the absence of knowledge can be due to ignorance regarding the
Repeating
path
the
of
same,
truth,
essentially, yeah.
or it can be because it is related to a matter that is inherently impossible for knowledge to relate to. Regarding other classical authorities like Imam at-Tabari and those following him, they readily grasp this matter intuitively. Less additional abstract, intuitive, less additional abstract theorization. Writing in his acclaimed tafsir, he sets out the following. Ibn Humayd narrated to us, he said,
That's a
Salama
summary.
narrated to us from Ibn Ishaq regarding the verse, it warns those people who assert Allah has offspring, namely the tribe of Quraysh, in relation to their statement, but we worship the angels and they are the daughters of Allah. And he says to them, they have no knowledge about this, saying what they express by this statement, namely, as they say, Allah has offspring, that they have no knowledge of Allah. The wording bihi means by Allah, meaning the one who has knowledge. In this saying, meaning the remembrance of Allah.
This is an attempt to deal, because the people are not sophisticated enough to understand the difference between ignorance about a way to lead to knowledge and impossibility of the knowledge of the impossible. Yeah. That level of sophistication was not developed yet, but it was developed later by Razi, Zamakhshari, and so on, and the later Mufassiri.
Despite mentioning this, At-Tabari seems to have disapproved of this line of reasoning, because immediately thereafter he said, the meaning of the statement is that those who are making this claim have no knowledge of Allah, namely that it's impossible for him to have a child. This is due to the ignorance of Allah and his greatness. They made this statement.
Yeah.
Later scholars followed in a similar vein. For example, Al-Qurtubi echoed this in his tafsir, also in his tafsir. He, the Almighty, said, it warns those people who assert Allah has offspring. Among them are the Jews who said Ezra is the son of God, and the Christians, they said Jesus is the son of God. The Quraysh said that the angels are the daughters of Allah. The warning in the beginning of the surah is general, and this is specific upon who said Allah has offspring. So this is your statement now. Refinement of the principle. Perhaps we can further refine and improve the wording of this critical and important sentence that has arrived in the present discourse. It is critically important epistemology. It is a critically important epistemological principle. The absence of knowledge about the existence of something can be due to ignorance of the means to attain that knowledge, or it can be because the thing is non-existence, and thus knowledge cannot relate to it, either because it was never existed, is not currently existent, or is inherently impossible and cannot exist at all. With regards to the addition that has been made to the wording, his origin stems from this wording as expressed in the Quran, where He, the Exalted and the Almighty, says, they worship alongside Allah things that can neither harm nor benefit them, and say, these are our ancestors, our intercessors with Allah. Say, do you think you can tell Allah about something He knows not to exist in the heavens or earth?
Yeah.
Glory be to Him. He is far above the partner gods they associate with Him. And that is
So these things do not exist in heavens and earth. Still claim they exist because of their ignorance, but they are impossible to assert, and even Allah does not know about them, that they exist. So they are not there. They're impossible to be. If they even could possibly exist, He would know about the possibility of their existence, but He doesn't know that. So it has an impossibility.
Here in the verse, the mention of the heavens and the earth suggests that the subject is focused on the current non-existence of additional entities at the time the discourse is outlined. Regarding the idea that they are impossible to even exist implies they cannot exist in the temporal realm, in the heavens and the earth, or even any other realms. In any event, the statement of He, the Exalted, do you think you can tell Allah about something He knows not to exist in the heavens or earth, shows the outright denial that there is any partner with Him. In a similar manner, a ruler
That's why the ayah says, "Ma la ya'lam fi samawati," but doesn't know the word existence. This translator added that. He doesn't know in heavens and earth. Existence don't exist. He doesn't know. He has no knowledge of it, which means necessarily it is not existing, neither now nor now in the future, nor anytime. And we know for other consideration that's impossible to exist, so it's unknowable for all eternities anyway.
In a similar manner, a ruler or governor of a town may say, I know of no other governor than myself, stating in an emphatic way to deny the existence of another governor, both falling within the same category of outright rebuke. He, the exalted and majestic, says, is He who stands over every soul, marking its action in need of any partner. Yet they ascribe partners to Allah. Say, name them. Or can you tell Him about something on earth He does not know to exist? Or is this just a display of words? But the things they devise are made alluring to the disbelievers, and they are barred from the right path. No one can guide those Allah leaves to stray. And that is 1333. Additional scholarly discourse. In the contemporary era of scholarship, Muhammad ibn al-Amin ibn Muhammad al-Mukhtar al-Jakani al-Shingiti addressed the issue at hand in a similar manner to Al-Razi, but he provided some critical expansion that is worthy of merit and detailed reflection. The following has been mentioned in his acclaimed work, Adwa al-Bayan.
It warns that that's the name, full name.
It warns those people who assert Allah has offspring. They have no knowledge about this, nor did their forefathers. It's a monstrous assertion that comes out of their mouth. What they say is nothing but lies. 18:4-5. This is an example of khas, specification, upon the general, due to his earlier statement of warning of severe punishment from him. It is inclusive of those who said that Allah has offspring, as well as other disbelievers, as mentioned within Fan al-Ma'ni, the art of rhetoric. It is established that specification of the particulars occurs after mentioning the general, when the particular stands out from the general with either commendable or objectionable qualities. It is considered an acceptable form of elucidation. Here, because the distinction in qualities is treated as a distinction in the matter of essence. An example of this is when the particular stand out from the general with commendable qualities. For example, where He, the Exalted, said, If anyone is an enemy of Allah, his angels, and his messengers of Gabriel and Michael, then Allah is certainly the enemy of such disbelievers. 298 again. And he said, we took a solemn pledge from the prophets, from you, Muhammad, from Noah. His saying, the Almighty, in this noble verse, they have no knowledge about this, nor did their forefathers, means what they attributed to him, taking a child, they have no knowledge of, because it is an impossibility. The verse clearly indicates that denying an action does not indicate its possibility. Among the verses demonstrating this is where he, the Almighty, said, it was not us they wronged themselves. That's 257. Because their transgression to our Lord and claim of knowledge about him taking a child, all of that is impossible logically. Thus negating it does not imply its possibility. This is similar to the logicians saying a negative statement does not imply the existence of the subject.
Yeah.
As we have explained elsewhere. What he has denied them, and by extension their forefathers, is the knowledge of him taking a child. Glory be to him. And he is exalted above that.
Yeah.
He has clarified this in other verses. It is a monstrous assertion that comes out of their mouths, meaning what they said from their mouths, that Allah had taken a child, was an enormity. We also mentioned the verses indicating his greatness previously. From this lengthy quotation, we can see that Ash-Shankiti, may Allah have mercy upon him, was more circumspect than that of Al-Razi, perhaps because he is from the contemporary era, having had the opportunity to access other branches of knowledge, including archaeology, contemporary religions, and the like, which were not as yet available to Imam Al-Razi. Concerning the mention of the three groups attributing offspring to Allah, with mention of the verse in Surah At-Tawbah, and the third category are the Arab mushrikeen, we should acknowledge, as has already been mentioned, most of the shirk that has existed across countless ancient civilizations stems from the belief that the nature of the divine or divinity itself is a kind that has multiple individuals, or it is a genus containing multiple species. The attribution of a child or offspring to Allah is a specific case for those who had already acknowledged a single central deity, God, Allah. Moreover, Ash-Shinkiti, may Allah have mercy upon him, provided even greater elaboration upon this topic in his valuable work entitled Dafa'u Iham Itiraban Ayat al-Kitab.
Yeah, the Sankirti has a book called Rejecting or Diffusing the Thoughts or Waham, or the misconception which may appear that the verses of the Quran contradict each other, having problem. So all controversial issues, he goes through them and show they synchronize well, correctly, and they are not creating any contradiction. So it's not only his tafsir, أضواء البيان, this is specifically for دفع إيهام الاضطراب عن آيات الكتاب, that the verses of the Quran are not wavering and contradicting each other.
So this is from his book. And a similar verse to the statement is his saying, may he be exalted. No excesses plea will benefit them now. 74:48. That is, they have no intercession at all that could benefit them. And his saying, whoever prays to another God alongside him, a God for whose existence he has no evidence, 23:117. Here, because the existence of another deity is impossible in the first place.
So an existence of this is impossible anyway. So the meaning of say, who worship another deity without an evidence for its existence will be punished this and this and this, meaning who worship another deity which by necessity cannot have any evidence for its existence whatsoever. It's impossible. So this one worshipper is definitely having no evidence, because an evidence cannot exist in the first place. So that's the way it should be read. Not that if he had an evidence, that's okay. No, it's not, because it's impossible to have an evidence. But that's resolve the problem, exactly like opening eyes of Surah Al-Kahf and similar eyes to come later. ما أنزل بها من سلطان. Allah did not give them any authority because it's impossible. We will give authority for absolute nothing. It's an impossibility. That's impossible.
Hey, because of the existence of another deity is impossible in the first place, there cannot be proof for or against it. The author, may Allah forgive him, said this latter point is known among logicians by their statement that a negative proposition does not imply the existence of the subject. To clarify, a negative proposition, according to them, is true in two scenarios, because its purpose is the absence of the subject's qualification by the predicate, and this absence is realized in two scenarios. Firstly, the subject exists, but the predicate is absent from it, as in the statement, the human is not a stone. Here the human exists and matter of being from stone is absent from it. Second, the subject is non-existence in the first place, because if it does not exist, the absence of its qualification by the existent predicate is realized. This is because non-existence cannot be qualified by existence. For example, when you say there is no counterpart to Allah deserving of worship, the subject, which is the counterpart, is non-existent from the start, and if its non-existence is realized, its qualification by the deservingness of worship is necessarily absent.
Absent, yeah. And this used in reduction and absurdum in mathematics and so on, with the same fundamental rule. But people who are not skilled in logic and especially if they are not used to the formalization of logic, which makes a complete system and well closed and internally consistent by itself, make them get wavering. Many people, there's a famous joke that a false statement can imply anything, true or false. And someone asked Bertrand Russell, it sounds strange that a false statement can imply truth or falsehood. Can you give us an example? Say, for example, assume that 2 is equal 1. What you can prove? Then if 2 is equal 1, I can prove that myself and the Pope are 1. 2 is equal 1. The Pope is an entity. I am another entity. We are 2, but 2 is equal 1. I am the Pope. Something like that. Obviously, it's absurd because the premise is impossible. But you can prove this proof is correct. This proof is correct. Assuming 2 is equal 1, you can deduce anything you like. True statement and false statement.
Is it because of how generic the statement is? It's not specific.
Yeah, this is the fundamental structure of logic. This way, logic becomes consistent and closed. You have the various type of statement, the premises is positive, the premises is negative, and the conclusion is this, and the reverse is this, and the reverse, and you list all of these basic rules, 5, 6, 7 rules, and then you have a closed system, and you can demonstrate it in a model. If you demonstrate it in a finite model, you can see it with your own eyes, A, B, C, and, or, etc. And then you verify all of them, they fit, and it is closed. And you can apply it infinite many times if you stay inside the system. So the system is consistent and does exist. And you see it in front of you in form of symbols. You can put it in form of symbols, you can put it in any form. That's one way to prove that an axiomatic system is internally consistent. For finite system, it's easy. For infinite system, it becomes a little bit hairy and tricky. But sometimes there are other tricks to go from back doors and things like that. But this is going deep in logic and consistency and so on. Yeah.
Yeah, you left me long ago. Okay, I have clarified that the issue that the negative proposition does not imply the existence of the subject in my treatise on logic in the discussion of the deviation of forms. I've also explained in the discussion of realization and deviation that some affirmative propositions do not imply the existence of the subject, such as a sea of mercury is possible and the impossible is non-existent. As both are affirmative propositions, yet the subject of each is non-existent. Yeah. We have elaborated there on the details of what necessitates the existence of the subject and what does not. The following has been mentioned in Adwa al-Bayan by Ash-Shankiti. Whoever prays to another god alongside him, a god for whose existence he has no evidence, will face his reckoning with his Lord. Those who reject the truth will not prosper. 23:117. Al-Burhan, the proof, evidence that leaves no ambiguity regarding the truth, and his saying he has no evidence is like his saying, yet besides God, they serve that for which he has sent no authority, 2271.
Yeah.
And as-Sultan is as an explicit standing proof, and that means Al-Burhan and his statement, the like thereof, will face his reckoning with his Lord. And he, the Almighty, has said, set up no other God beside Allah, or you will end up disgraced and forsaken. And that's 1722. The verses of similar meaning are very numerous, and there is no disagreement among the scholars that his statement here, whose existence he has no evidence, does not imply the opposite meaning.
Yeah. As you say.
Thus, no one can rightly say, regarding someone who worships another God alongside him with proof, that is permissible, because it is impossible for there to be proof of worshipping another God
So the
alongside him.
understanding of that is that whoever do call on, exactly I said, yad'u, not pray, but call on a deity for which he has no evidence, it should be read, a deity which necessarily impossible to have an evidence for. That's the meaning of it. And thus, if it's impossible to have evidence for, this guy who is calling could not have possibly have any evidence, because it's impossible to have any evidence. So if he brings any blah, blah, blabbery, we know it is nonsense, because we have the positive proof that the deity, the eternally, the necessarily existing, the real deity is only one.
So that's when you strike the Quran with the other verses, you'll make that conclusion.
Yeah.
Rather, the definitive and successive proofs indicate that he alone, glorified and exalted, is to be worshipped, and it is impossible for there to be any evidence of worshipping anyone other than him. As an example of this in the Quran is this verse, because his saying he has no evidence is a description that matches reality, since they claim alongside him other deities without any proof. Therefore, the description is mentioned due to its alignment with reality, not to exclude the implication from the ruling of the explicit text. Again, the following has been mentioned in Adwa al-Bayan. He, the Almighty, said, these people of ours have taken gods other than him. Why do they not produce clear evidence about them? Who could be more unjust than someone who makes up lies about Allah? That's 18:15. The why do they not in this noble verse is for takhsis, specification. It denotes an emphatic and intense request. The purpose of this request is to demonstrate incapability, given that it is known none can bring forth any clear authority proving the permissibility of worshipping Allah other than Allah the Almighty. By mention of clear evidence, what is meant is a manifest proof. What he the Exalted mentioned in this noble verse and about their incapability to produce any proof for their shirk and kufr, together with the invalidation of the arguments of the mushrikeen for their shirk, is explained clearly in many verses. And
challenging him to bring an evidence does not mean that evidence could exist. It means it's impossible to have any evidence. So you can challenge as much as you can. They will never comply, because such an evidence is impossible to exist. That's the correct reading. That's it. Translated in a longer sentence. But the Quran uses a formulation which teaches how to do logic statements in the formalized correct way. The same in كان الرحمن ولد فأنا ولد. If the compassionate Lord has a son, then I am the first one to worship him. I would enslave myself to him if it's a genuine son. That's also imtina'. The merciful Lord is impossible can having a genuinely divine son worthy of enslaving one to himself. So this is you will not see me adopting or accepting any son, because it's impossible to exist. But if it existed, assume it existed as reductio ad absurdum, then you will see me the first one to acknowledge that and do the necessary enslavement or worship. That's a type of evidence of like reductio ad absurdum.
Writing in his Ahkam al-Quran, Al-Jassas has mentioned the following. Al-Jassas has mentioned the following. He, the Almighty, has said, "Do not consume usurious interest, doubled and redoubled." That's 3:130. It does not indicate it does not indicate permissibility if it is not multiplied. And the Almighty said, "Whoever prays to another god alongside him, a god for whose existence he has no evidence." That's 23:117. This does not indicate that anyone can provide proof for the validity of claiming that there is somehow another god alongside Allah. He is far exalted above that.
Yeah.
Returning to Ash-Shinkiti, he lucidly expresses the following in Al-Qawaid Al-Hisan fi Tafsir al-Quran. From among them, he, the Exalted, says, "Whoever prays to another god alongside him, a god for whose existence he has no evidence." 23:117, a matter well known that whoever invokes another god alongside Allah is a kafir and has no proof whatsoever. Allah included the condition in the verse to emphasize the heinousness of shirk and the mushrik, highlighting that shirk has absolutely no legitimate or rational proof. The mushrik has nothing that justifies any of it. The benefit of this condition is to severely denounce mushrikeen for their obstinacy and opposition to.
I think it's deeper than that. It is to show that they have no evidence, that it's impossible to have any evidence. And he should have expanded that, not just denounce mushrikeen. It is impossible to have an evidence. When you say la burhan, he has no evidence for it, does not mean that an evidence is possible whatsoever, but it's impossible to have any evidence whatsoever. It's rationally and logically impossible to have, which makes things worse for the mushrik, so that he is even dumber than the dumbest. But the main point is that the existence of an evidence is impossible. There's absolutely dictated by necessity of reason and logic that there couldn't be another deity anyway. So, and thus, an evidence for another deity is impossible to bring. And this guy claimed to make claim that I will get it from my parents, from previous generations. The Sheikh said that, this institution said that. This is all rubbish because this isn't an evidence.
The benefit of this condition is to severely denounce mushrikeen for their obstinacy and opposition to both religious and rational proof, thereby underscoring that they have nothing but selfish desires and malicious intent. That if they were to reflect even a little, they would realize that what they are doing cannot be justified by anyone with the slightest faith.
I think that malicious intent is not necessary. It could be just utter ignorance. Many people are not qualified to think about these things, and they take what the church says or what the parents say and so on. So it's not necessarily malicious, not always malicious intent, but such evidence cannot exist anyway. So either these do not recognize that because of the ignorance, and they're following that which couldn't. But if they are informed that this is impossible, then whatever being told to them by parents or by church or by organizations, they will say it can't be, because we have a positive proof that it's impossible. So what you are bringing is just rubbish. You're just blabbering. You are blabbering, nothing else. Okay, so a little bit more than that did not go deep enough and clarify things. Carry on anyway.
Next, the following has been mentioned in Ad-Durr al-Ma'sun fi al-Ilm al-Kitab al-Maknoon by As-Samin al-Halabi. His statement, whoever prays to a condition, in its answer, there are two pathways. The most correct of them is that he says, "Will faith his reckoning?" Accordingly, there are two aspects to the previous statement, which is where he says whose existence he has no evidence, one of which is that an attribute of God, which is an intransitive attribute, namely the invoked God other than Allah, cannot be except as such, as it has no valid meaning due to the corruption of the meaning. In a similar manner, nor a bird that flies with its wings here doesn't imply that there is another invoked God besides Allah who they have evidence for, nor that there is a bird that can fly without its wings. Secondly, is that it is an interjection between the condition and its answer. Makhshari referred to these two interpretations by saying it is an essential attribute, as in the phrase "flies with its wings," given for emphasis, but not to suggest that among the gods there might be one who could have proof.
Exactly. Because it seems to be shocking at first, but the moment you recognize that such an evidence or such an authority, ما أنزل بهم Sultan, Allah will not send Sultan down because it's impossible to have a Sultan in the first place. Nothing can be said. It's an impossibility. So ما أنزل بهم Sultan, not that if Allah sent the Sultan for that, it will be legitimate. No, it's impossible to have a Sultan and impossible to send down anything like that. That's the resolution, just a summary.
It can also be an interjection between the condition and the consequence, as in the phrase, whoever is kind to Zayd, no one is more deserving of kindness. Allah will reward him. Secondly, regarding the two aspects, is that the conditional clause appearing in his statement, whose existence he has no evidence, is as if he has avoided the meaning of the attribute because of the corruption that is necessarily entails, thus ending up in something permissible only in the realm of poetic license, which is the omission of the conjunction fa in the nominal sentence, as it is in the verse, whoever does good deeds, Allah rewards them, explaining whose existence he has no evidence, as an attribute has been discussed previously. There is no problem within it, as it is an intransitive adjective, or that it is an
You see, all of that is because the common people, generally, they were not skilled in logic and formalization. They struggle with it, like the story with Bertrand Russell. It may be just an anecdote, but shows even until the beginning of the century or mid of the century, people are struggling with that, with things like that, which is dictated by necessity of reason and logic. To make the logic complete and formally closed is necessary. But for common people, call on a deity with whom for which he has no evidence, they say, oh, if he has an evidence, then he can call. No, it's not that. It is what is meant really is that such a deity you call upon is impossible to exist and it's impossible to have any evidence. But to clarify that and stress it, it has mentioned in this form. And also to teach you how to use such negative statements and so on. Teach how to use logic correctly. That's what Quran is also having these features. But the ancient did not notice that point. That the Quran has certain things which teach you these things in a clear way. Because in many situations, they did not open their eyes to this thing and benefit from it, which is a pity, but that has happened, and now we have to fix it. That's it.
Following on analysis, so this is your statement. Some additional clarification are required in relation to the interpretation as set out in the preceding quotation above by the author of Ad-Dar al-Ma'soon. The origin of the poem begins as whoever does good deeds, then Allah rewards them but the conjunction letter fa is omitted out of necessity for the requirement of the poetic line to begin the essential attribute, where the intended meaning conveyed by the Quranic verse would thus be whoever invokes another God besides Allah, whose essential and necessary attribute is that there is no substantive evidence for it, then his reckoning is ultimately with his Lord. This is the second interpretation, which appears in Al-Mawardi Tafsir, which is entitled Al-Nukhat Al-Uyun. His saying, whoever prays to another God beside him, a God for whose existence he has no evidence, in that there's two aspects. The second of which, that this attribute of a God that is invoked besides Allah, that there is no evidence for it. The rhetorical purpose here is for confirmation and emphasis. Secondly, regarding the objection, assessing the wording of the verse then becomes, whoever prays to another God alongside him, a God for whose existence he has no evidence, which is due to the impossibility of having such proof or evidence, then he will face his reckoning with his Lord. This is the first aspect that was mentioned by Al-Mawardi in his tafsir. His saying, whoever prays to another God alongside him, a God for whose existence he has no evidence, in that there's two aspects, one of which means that there is no proof of validity, that there is another God with Allah. The rhetorical purpose here is to amplify the ubiquitous state of the individual calling on a supposed deity that doesn't exist.
That's one aspect, but the real aspect is to show that another deity is impossible to exist and there cannot be any evidence or cannot be an authority to be sent out. That's it. That's just make a long, painful story short. It's impossible to have an evidence for that. So لا برهان له به. As a matter of fact, it's impossible to have a burhan. So this one who claimed that he has a burhan, his burhan is not a burhan, because such a burhan cannot exist, and such a deity is impossible to exist. But he may be fooled by getting things from the church or from his father and grandfathers and from people misguided and people wrong and so on. But it's by necessity cannot be an evidence.
Thirdly, in relation to the conditional clause with the omission of the particle fa, the statement consists of two sentences. Whoever prays to another god alongside him, a god for whose existence he has no evidence, and whoever invokes another god besides Allah, then his account is only with his Lord. Repeat of the condition is then omitted, and the first fa dropped, so it suffices with the second. Another rhetorical purpose is to harmonize the two sentences into one, while outlining the disgraceful state of the individual seeking to try and invoke another god. All the while...
Maybe I should stream that element. I think with too many quotes, maybe a couple of quotes can be. But because this is an issue which most people are not familiar with, maybe an expander is good. Mm-hmm.
Again, the rhetorical purpose is to harmonize the two sentences into one while outlining the disgraceful state of the individual seeking to try and invoke another god, all the while strongly censuring him. Similar has been outlined in many verses, some of which are set out below for perusal. We will strike panic into the disbelievers because they attribute partners to Allah, although He has sent no authority for this. Their shelter will be the fire. How miserable is the home of the evildoers. And that's 3:151. Why should I fear what you associate with him? Why do you not fear to associate with him things for which he has sent you no authority? Tell me if you know the answer. Which side has more right to feel secure? That's 681.
Mm-hmm.
Say, my prophet.
Quoting Ibrahim, yeah, that's Ibrahim telling his people. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Say, prophet, my Lord only forbids disgraceful deeds, whether they be open or hidden, and sin and unjustified aggression, and that you without his sanction associate things with him, and that you say things about him without knowledge. That's 733. They said, have you really come to tell us to serve Allah alone and to forsake what our forefathers served? If what you say is true, bring us the punishment you threaten. He said, you are already set to receive your Lord's loathing and anger. Are you arguing with me about mere names you and your fathers invented, names for which Allah has given no sanction? Just wait, I too am waiting. And that's 70 to 71. All those you worship instead of him are mere names you and your forefathers have inherited, names for which Allah has sent down no sanction. Yeah. Authority belongs to Allah alone, and He orders you to worship none but Him. This is the true faith, though most people do not realize it. That's 1240. Yet beside Allah, they serve that for which He has sent no authority, and of which they have no knowledge. The evildoers will have no one to help them. That's 2271. Did we send down any authority that sanctions the partners they ascribe to Allah? Mm-hmm. Sorry, that's 3035. I may have mixed up the references, but you can people.
No problem. But the scheme is clear. Talking about authority sent down by Allah and so on. A simple-minded person reading it casually, especially Wahhabi and the like, they think if Allah has sent an authority, it will be okay. No authority has sent by Allah because it's impossible to have an authority and impossible to send anything down. That's it. So stressing two things: the impossibility of that. And therefore, it could not have been possibly done ever on whatever the other guys claim there's an authority or attributed to an organization or church or parents and so on is a fallacy. So you have to stress all these aspects in one go, in one statement. Because the evidence for the oneness of the divine are absolute, irrefutable. Necessarily existing is only one if we go from that thing. And even if we assume that these competing gods are created and they rebel, that's contradict also necessity of reason, and it's impossible. no created being or contingent being can run away from Allah or defeat him. It's impossible. This is create rational inconsistency in any case. Although some people thought that until they solved the problem of evil and problem of qadar and suffering this way, it doesn't solve anything. It annihilates everything. It annihilates reason. So it has to be dealt with every aspect. And this is one of the aspects of it's impossible to have a proof for any deity, because the proof, the positive proof, the absolute proof has brought that's only one incessant existing being. And if we talk about these created things which are rebelling and so on, these are impossible to exist, because any created being, bad idea jumping out or so on, since it is contingent, it started after the beginning of the creation, so it can do some corruption in the universe. Such an entity is impossible. Impossible to undermine Allah, and Allah, it's impossible. Allah will not be able to control them. That will create contradictions. So the same thing, and so on, and so on, and so on. Okay, so I think we can just, if there's more discussion, we can skip it. It's the same, repeating the same several times. Okay.
Next slide. There are nothing but names that you have invented yourselves, you and your forefathers. Allah has sent no authority.
And there's also a good hint there that there's certain names and certain statements, both names, that's what they call concepts, single things, and then composed things, which is statement, and subject and predicate. There are names, entities, or concepts, and there are statements which look like as if they are valid statements and valid names. They point to nothing. They may point to an impossibility, like the future events which Allah had not yet decided to create them. They don't exist. They're impossible to know. But it's a bit deeper in matter of qadar, but it applies everywhere across. So that gives us also the issue of semantic. You remember I mentioned several times we have optical illusion. That's easy to deal with. We have mental optical illusion. We close our eyes and imagine something like a visual, inside visual of the mind. And then we have the semantic illusion. Like I mentioned examples, like the square triangle, the square circle. Sounds like an entity, like a concept. It is not. Linguistics look like a concept, looks genuine. It's not genuine. It's nothing. It points to absolute, to nothing, and it points actually to an impossibility. It is not a nothing in the past, nor in eternity, nor in the future, not for all times. And then we have also statement, like the set of all sets which contain itself as an element. Sounds very genuine and cause even a problem for Bertrand Russell, and he struggled years with that. The clear and easy shortcut to say, this looks like a statement formalized, but it points to nothing, because such an entity is impossible to exist. So it looks formally like a statement, like the weather is good. This is a statement and refers to something, but this one refers to an impossibility. So it is formalized as a statement, but it's an impossibility. The same with the classical liar paradox, which we can formulate as a statement, like in an abstract. This statement is false. Looks like a statement, and it refers to itself with the word statement, but it's all fooling someone. It's all an illusion. It's a semantic illusion. Because this one, if it is true, it is false. If it's false, it's true. So internally contradictory. So it cannot be a statement which can be studied by the logic. It has to be excluded, but it has to be analyzed in meta-logic, outside the logic, in the rational discourse. Formal work with it will not solve the problem. You have to get out the formal and look from outside. It's a bit deep, but that's the way to go in these things. So you should not be fooled by the illusion that it looks like a statement, or refer to it, like I said, this statement is false. Look genuine, but it's reality, it's nothing. It's an impossibility. And if you analyze it grammatically, it looks grammatically correct. There's no problem. This statement is false. Subject and predicate sounds legitimate, no problem. This statement referring to oneself, that's okay. I am sad, referring to myself, I am sad. this speaker, referring to this speaker is sad or jubilant. It's perfectly fine. No problem. Formalized is linguistically acceptable as a subject and predicate. In Arabic, there's no present verb like is. It is the robbed, and we have this called jumla ismiya, a nominal sentence. In Arabic, we have nominal sentences, which has no verb. But in English and most European language, most languages in the world, you don't need to use you have to use the word is or are or something like that. There's no sentence without a verb. But this is just a linguistic characteristic of the language. It doesn't matter. In Arabic, you could say, but it's very ineloquent, and people will be shocked to hear you saying, "Ana akun hazin," or I am in Arabic, "Ana hazin." I am sad. I sad. If you say, "Ana akun sad," akun hazin, people look, what this guy is. The guy is mental. Why you use the word akun? You don't need it. You say, "Ana hazin." I sad. Enough. Because there's an implicit is in between. When you talk about the past and the future, you have to use the verb yakun clearly. I was sad, you have to say kuntu hazinan. That's something else. And the same with the future. But present, no need for that. It's being dropped, creating what we call nominal sentence. But this is a linguistic characteristic. Still, it's the statement. Mubtada and khabar, or subject and predicate, connected to the verb is or are. So it looks quite legitimate. But you looked up closer, but look from outside. Now you get outside of the language and look in the meaning. Has no meaning. It's an impossibility.
Okay, carrying with the ad. These people merely follow guesswork and the whims of their souls, even though their guidance has come to them from their Lord. And that is 53:23. So more from the exegetes. The following is what I'll do is I can just rush through this. Just to give an explanation to get the end. We've got about 4 pages or 5 pages left. Then we finish this chapter. The following is mentioned in Al-Razi in his Tafsir Mafatih al-Ghaib, and he provides the following commentary regarding the highlighting portions of the Quranic verses as previously set out. The second issue, his saying for which he hasn't sent no authority, might give the impression that there is authority for it, except that Allah has not sent it down or made it evident. However, the response to this is the following: if there was such an authority, Allah would have sent it down. Thus, since he has not sent down any authority for it, it must not exist.
It's impossible. It's impossible to have any authority.
The essence of this statement aligns with what the Mutakallimin say, namely that this is something for which there is no evidence, so it is not permissible to assert its existence. Some of the Mutakallimin go further and argue that because there is no evidence, it must be denied altogether. Others have used this point to argue for the oneness of the Creator, stating that the only way to establish the existence of the Creator is through the necessity of contingent beings needing him, and it suffices to establish the necessity of there being one Creator. Anything beyond that cannot be established, so it is not permissible to assert its existence. The third issue, this verse indicates the fallacy of taqleed in relation to that. This is because the verse shows that shirk has no evidence supporting it, so asserting it must be false. This is valid only if asserting something which, without evidence of its validity, is false, which leads to the conclusion that relying on taqleed is also false. Given the above, I would argue that Al-Razi's statement, since he has not sent down any authority for it, must not exist, is quite curtailed and containing some shortcomings. It would be preferable to argue that if there were to be proof in this vital issue, which is the most significant of the issues for which the messengers were sent and the books were revealed, Allah would have provided proof with every prophet sent, especially in the Quran, which he revealed as being an explanation for everything. But since he did not provide any proof of it, by necessity it must be considered false. Next, the following has been mentioned in Tafsir al-Bahr al-Muhit by Abu Hayyan al-Andalusi. And ma is utilized for causality, meaning here, because they associate other gods with Allah, for which He has not sent down any authority or proof, the negation is applied to the revelation, and the intended meaning is a negation of authority. In other words, for the supposed gods, for which there is no authority in their association with Him, this is similar to the phrase "on a clear path that has no guiding markers."
Mhm.
Here meaning that there are no markers to guide by, and the phrase "you will not see a lizard burrowing in it," meaning the lizard does not burrow there to be seen.
Mhm.
The intended meaning is the negation of both the authority and the revelation together. The following has been mentioned in At-Tahrir wa-Tanwir,
Ibn Ashur.
for which he has sent no authority, namely what has no authority to substantiate it. Authority here means evidence and proof because it exerts control over the mind. The negation of its revelation implies the negation of its existence. If it were true, Allah would have revealed it to people, for Allah does not withhold guidance about what they need to believe through the messenger's tongues. Revelation here could mean divine inspiration or the establishment of evidence, as in the saying, "Wisdom was revealed through the tongues of the Arabs, the minds of the Persians, and the hands of the Chinese." This truth can only be known either through revelation or through indications. The denial of the revelation of authority in shirk is a figurative way of denying the authority itself.
Mhm.
Similar to the words of the unknown poet, the rabbit is not frightened by its own terrors, nor do you see the lizard burrowing there.
Mhm.
However, in spite of the above, the following has been mentioned in Tafsir al-Alusi, for which he has sent no authority, namely the associating partners with him, or it is said by worshipping him. Here in the verse, ma is an indefinite noun described or a relative noun. It is not a verbal noun, sultan, meaning evidence or substantive proof. Mention of evidence here indicates that which is followed in that manner in the manner of Tawheed is divine proof as opposed to false viewpoints and desires. Named as such because it strengthens and empowers one over the opponent. It is said it is original. The mention of the absence of a revealed proof together with the impossibility of its occurrence fails under the category of negation of something due to the absence of its necessary condition, meaning there is no proof until it is revealed. This is like the couplet, "The rabbit is not frightened by its terrors, and you do not see a lizard burrowing there." The intended meaning is that there is no lizard there to burrow. Thus, the intended meaning is the negation of both, similar to the logical statement. A negative
Going into
proposition.
rhetoric issues and so on, but I think our explanation is comprehensive. And then adding a flavor that if there would have been an evidence, or which is impossible, if there had been, then because it's a fundamental point, the whole Quran and the revelation before is focused on La ilaha illallah, it would have been revealed. Since nothing has been revealed, meaning there's no evidence whatsoever, it's impossible to have. That's it. Otherwise, Allah would not have withheld it because He's the truth and He sent down only the truth.
Okay,
And He would never lie, never mislead.
so a negative proposition does not imply the existence of the subject.
Mm.
What we mentioned about the impossibility of establishing proof for associating partners with Allah is almost necessarily known from the Deen. As for associating partners in al-Rububiyyah, lordship, it is evident, for how could Allah, the Exalted, command the belief that the creator of the world is two beings, sharing the necessity of existence and possessing all perfections. Regarding association partners in al-Uluhiyyah, divinity, which was the belief of most mushrikeen during the time of the Messenger of Allah, peace be upon him, it leads to commanding the belief in things contrary to reality, which the mushrikeen believed about their idols, and which he refuted. So the viewpoint of Isam al-Millah, and we say that the proof for associating partners is under his power. If he willed, he would have revealed it. For if he commanded the association of idols with him in worship, then their worship would have become obligatory. I see it as a solution for Isam ad-Din, because there is no God but Allah directed at dualists and idolaters reject. There is no God but Allah directed at dualists and idolaters rejects the possibility of that. This is evidence to anyone who understands the meaning of this blessed phrase. Now, this is your statement. Here I would argue that the statement made by Al-Ulusi regarding the beliefs of the mushrikeen about their idols is a weak viewpoint. It lacks the necessary details in this critical situation, and he himself has said it strongly in relation to another subject matter elsewhere in the same tafsir, namely, without his sanction, without his without his sanction, associate things with him. By his existence, al-Sultan means any substantive proof, since there is no evidence for its existence until he revealed it, to materialize its non-existence according to itself. With regard to the statements he quotes from Isam al-Billah, it is nonsense, nothing but meaningless speech. There are several reasons for this. Firstly, because the Mushrikeen did not worship al-Asnam, the idols, except that they believed in their divinity. This is notwithstanding that their understanding or definition of either divinity or worship was. Secondly, Allah has expressly testified that there is no other God except Him. He alone is to be worshipped. He has commanded that within the testimony of faith and stressed its importance. Lastly, shirk is to associate another God with Allah or to worship any other than Allah, as per the text of the Quran and the unanimous ijma of the people of Islam, and indeed others. If Allah the Exalted had commanded the worship of Asnam, idols, and we make complete disavowal from such ludicrous accusation, it would in effect mean obey me by disbelieving in me, or obey me by disobeying me. Such an incredulous statement doesn't even come from the insane. So how on earth could it be claimed it comes from Allah, Lord of all creation? Similarly to the flawed statements spouting from Isam al-Millah is that made by Ibn Hazm, where he said, and this is the height of corruption, because if Allah the Exalted commanded us to do that, it would not be a return to the deen of kufr. Rather, it would be remaining steadfast in faith, increasing in it. This statement was made in response to the viewpoints of the Mu'tazilites and expressed in his famous work Al-Fasl fil Milal wal
والنحل
Nihal.
والنحل yeah.
And this is a statement. And He Almighty said, when praising a people and affirming their statement, if we were to return to your religion after Allah has saved us from it, we would be inventing lies about Him. There is no way we could return to it unless by the will of Allah, our Lord. That's 789. The prophets, peace be upon them, and their adherents who spoke the truth with Allah, the Almighty confirmed, they were saved from kufr because Allah the Almighty rescued them from it. He did not rescue the disbelievers from it. If Allah the Almighty had willed for them to return to disbelief, they would have returned to it. It is certain that He willed for those who return to disbelief. The Mu'tazila said about this verse that it means unless He commands us to venerate idols, as He commanded us to venerate the black stone and the Kaaba. And Muhammad ibn Hazm said, and this is the height of corruption, because if Allah the Exalted commanded us to do that, it would not be a return to the deen of kufr. Rather, it would be remaining steadfast in faith and increasing in it. And this is your statement. In this respect,
this is the same confusion about veneration, worship, and so on. And what's prohibited is ibadah, which is enslaving oneself, regarding Allah as the ultimate supreme Lord and oneself as the ultimate slave. That's it. It has nothing to do with veneration and non-veneration. This is all secondary issues. This is all nonsense. The whole thing, Mu'tazili and even Abu Muhammad Ali ibn Hazm did not catch the point. The same with Ibn Taymiyyah, the same with but we will have more of that, inshallah, down the road. Anyway, continue.
Yeah, so this is your last paragraph. In response to this, I would argue that this statement arises from a state of confusion, an absence of reason due to obstinacy in argument. Indeed, the correct response is that the black stone and the Kaaba are not idols. Even the Arab mushrikeen understood this point. They had reverence for both, but did not worship them. As for the veneration of idols, it is worship. The response to them Mu'tazila should be similar to our response to Isam al-Millah, and not with the phrase of Abu Muhammad ibn Hazm, which is a grievous slip.
Yeah,
which is a grievous slip, if not outright bold blasphemy.
Yeah.
So that's the end of the chapter. So, any concluding statements?
No, I think it's explained ad nauseum. All these is essentially saying it is impossible for these to have any sultan, which Allah will send down, but it's mentioned in a abridged form, as if it is, if Allah sends the sultan with it, it will be okay. But it's impossible to send the sultan because there's no sultan whatsoever. It's an impossibility. The same with Burhan. If there was a Burhan, it will be excusable, but it is impossible to have a Burhan. That's the correct reading of the things, and similar other things of this category. That's it, to make it short and painless. But I said, because most people have a problem with this formalized way of a negative statement, and it can lead to any conclusion you wish, and you can use it for reduction absurdum. This is a bit deep in logic and in mathematics. Majority of people are not familiar with that in the common life. That's it. And many people are easily fooled by semantic illusion. Optical illusion fool you for some time, but you recognize it and you overcome it. Even mental optical illusion, if you close your eyes, it may fool you stronger, but still you can get rid of it. But semantic illusion is quite difficult. And it persisted until even recently, and in the last century, with Bertrand Russell struggling with the issue of the set of all sets which does not contain itself as an element, or the statement, the set of all sets which contain itself as an element. Both of them are impossibilities, although it looks like a statement. It's not a statement. It is phrased as if it were a statement, formally, linguistically, but it represents nothing. It's empty of any content. The same with concepts, which are not predicate and subject. The prime example is the square circle. That's an impossibility. There's no square circle. Although linguistically it looks fine, no problem. But the moment you look at it, try to imagine something like that, because you can imagine a circle, you can imagine a square, try to put them together, it's impossible. Then you recognize, this is just a semantic formulation which appears to be like pointing to some entity, but there is no entity. It's an impossibility. It's a null pointer for programmers who know how to, especially C++ pointers. You have null pointers. Normally, it's a pointer to an empty storage cell, so it points to something which may come in existence and disappear. But this is even much worse. It's pointing to something which cannot exist. It's impossible to exist. It points nowhere. Appears that it's points to somewhere, but it points to absolutely nowhere. So the null pointer in the C++, which is very dangerous in programming, is much better than the C. Okay, I think that's enough. And if you have difficulty, read it again and again, and the pen and paper, and try to make circles and so on, Venn diagrams, and you recognize what's going on.
Professor, I'm trying to analyze where this entire confusion came from in the Islamic literature.
No. It is a confusion by all humanity generally. It's not for Islamic literature. No.
Yes, but specifically in Islam, why there's so much confusion related to the matter of uluhiyya, rububiyyah, shirk, ibadah.
The rest of the book will go to that. Don't worry, you are in a hurry.
Yes.
Something which needs time. If you mean this issue specifically, that's all human will fall on this trap.
Yes, no, not this issue specifically, but related to the divine attributes. So basically, I think that the great confusion came from the fact that many scholars, or most of the scholars, they assumed that the divine attributes is limited to the major ones. You know, like when we say Allah, when we say Allah, the Creator.
You try to explain something before studying the problem where it comes, and study Ibn Taymiyyah and Ibn Abdul Wahhab. We will get there.
Yes, but what I'm trying to say is that these scholars, because they assumed that the divine attributes is...
We don't know what they assumed. We have to read what they say and see where the problem
is. No, I'm telling you, because I have read, for example, Ibn Abdul Wahhab, so
No. Ibn Abdul Wahhab is a trivial guy. Go to Ibn Taymiyyah, that's also the problem. Either his proof of Tamanu. I mentioned the proof. Quoted from him is an excellent proof. But he insisted everywhere, say, Rabb. And the ayah says, Ilah. That's the problem. He defined something in his imagination and projected in the Quran. In other words, he tried to lead the Quran. No, the Quran has to lead you. That's it. If you don't make the Quran imam and give up what you have and follow him, then you will get lost. That's it. That's the source of it.
So I'm assuming that the confusion came from the fact that they did not understand the divine attributes when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala
No. The confusion came essentially in that form in Ibn Taymiyyah. some bit of confusion was already in Tabari time and so on, but little bit really. People got that psychologically correct generally. Things were simple, but with the accumulation of time.
You know, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he says, قُلْ مَنْ يَرْزُقُكُم مِّنَ السَّمَاءِ وَالْأَرْضِ, and in other ayah he says, وَلَئِنْ سَأَلْتَهُم مَنْ خَلَقَ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ.
We will get that in Shirk al-Arab ad nauseum. Wait for it.
Yeah. So what I'm trying to say is that those mushrikeen, they acknowledge that these divine attributes is for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala only. Hence.
No. That's a mistake. We'll get that in Shirk al-Arab. Wait until we get there. We answer Ibn Taymiyyah's question one by one.
Okay.
He read, for example, ما يرزقكم من السماء والأرض. Say, this is ربوبية. Okay, tamam. And meaning, he extended it to move the wind. Who is that? It's not. The ayah talks about rizq only. He expanded it where it doesn't belong, and where it belongs, he shrank it. We'll discuss that. All the ayahs will be discussed ad nauseum.
Okay, but what I'm trying to say is these divine attributes is not only limited to these 3 or 4 attributes. There are different attributes, like being able to challenge the decision of Allah, or interceding without Allah's.
All what will come in its due course, but especially the main things Ibn Taymiyyah and the Wahhabi say is that قل ما يرزقكم من السماء قل الله قل كذا قل الله قل الله قل الله قل الله, and saying that means that they admit that the idols have nothing in that, they have no share in that, have no in this and this, but that's not true. The idols have share in some other things.
Absolutely. That's what I just.
But we have to discuss.
Even if they acknowledge that Allah is the creator, they have made shirk with Him in other attributes.
But Ibn Taymiyyah did not do that. We will discuss.
That's what I'm trying to say. Because of their laziness.
We are irrelevant with laziness. We get there and discuss it objectively, point for point. That's the way to go. It doesn't help to say Ibn Taymiyyah was lazy or the secret Jew want to undermine Islam. That doesn't mean
no.
We say what some people said that. We say what he said and refute it on its ground. That's the way to go.
Okay.
So these the people were unable to go because he mentioned these ayahs and everyone assumed he's correct. He's not correct. But that's in Shirk al-Arab. That's welcome to the Shirk al-Arab.
Yeah, you know that this entire thing came from the lazy definition that Allah is the Khaliq, Razik, Mudabbir. Every school kid knows this, you know. But what about the other divine attributes? There are zillion divine attributes. It
doesn't come from that. Let's get there. When we get there, we'll see where's the problem.
Okay,
if it would have been so easy, it would have been refuted long ago. It is not easy. So in such a cunning way, and Ibn Taymiyyah is a man of super intelligence, he can market that easily. He's a master of sophistry. Master of sophistry. It's not an easy way. Ibn Abdul Wahhab is just shallow, but he quoted Ibn Taymiyyah and sharpen things in a trivial way, so a bunch of Bedouins in Middle Arabia can follow him. That's it. The moment it gets out of the Bedouins, he is lost. But they refer them and they print the books of Ibn Taymiyyah, and all the followers all over the Muslim world are really reading Ibn Taymiyyah, more or less. Okay. You say the quotes, for example, Abu Qatada, this and this, Maqdisi and so on, they quote mostly Ibn Taymiyyah. They don't quote Ibn Abdul Wahhab. It's a joke if you quote him. You will become a joker.
Taymiyan, they call him Taymiyan.
Essentially, that's it. We'll get there bit by bit.
Okay, and now another topic which is related to previous halaqa, when you said that there is no necessary reason for the creation, for Allah to create the creation, right? Or something similar to this.
There's no compulsion on him to create or not create. It's a free choice, ultimately.
Ultimately free choice, but then you were talking about the hikmah of creation.
It's also his choice.
Yeah, his choice, but he told us why he created. I mean,
that's what he chose, but there are other options he did not choose. It is by choice. If you say this hikmah is compulsory, then we have the dead, blind, deaf nature. It's not
like what do you mean compulsory? Because I understood compulsory is based on what he told us. It is
no. Compulsory by necessity of reason. Be
Okay.
compulsory. That's what mean. Like the Mu'tazila say, Allah is obliged to do the salah and the aslah, which is a fallacy again, because he's not obliged to do salah and aslah. And secondly, what is salah and aslah? How to rank things. The universes cannot be ranked in one line. And they gave the example of the circle around the 0 point of the plane. All points have the same distance from the center, but they're different angles. So you cannot order by distance, which is the most important thing, but at the same distance. Which order is what makes the angle of 45 degrees more preferable than 90 degrees? It's relatively arbitrary and things like that. I just gave that an example that they imagine that the universe can order in sequence. This is better than this, so he has to choose the utmost best. There's no utmost best. There's so many good ones.
Sure, but I can respond to him, this guy, whatever his name, without arguing with him in rationality. By one ayah, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he says...
We don't want that. We want to go to necessity of reason phase and build from that.
Okay.
Allah created the creation to worship him, etc., etc. We know that. That's what affair for this universe. But why this universe and not other universes? That has to be settled. That's the issue of qadar.
Yes. But also there's a different ayah. Just let me tell you about it. Is well, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he said, الذي خلق الموت والحياة ليبلوكم أيكم
Yes, in this universe. There will be another universe where there's no maut and hayat.
No, I argue against him when he says that Allah created the universe in sequence 1, 2, 3.
No, not in sequence. The Mu'tazila is having the assumption in mind that all possible universes are ordered in a sequence in such a way that one is better than the other one. I'm saying that's not possible to order like that. Someone is superior in the other one in certain aspect, another one is superior in another aspect. And you have to make a decision.
I see.
If it is one is compulsory, then we have a dead, blind, deaf nature. That's it. There's no other option for this existing being. Either absolute freedom or no freedom, zero or infinity. That's the fundamental one.
Yes.
And the Quran testifies for that.
Where? I mean, which ayah?
No. The Quran, this universe is, he tells us what's the purpose. But there's no way that this purpose is compulsory by necessity of reason. Could have been otherwise.
Yes. But the moment that Allah decided to create this universe in a certain way, then it
became... The question is not that. Why this universe against another one? That's the question. With that, the moment settled and chosen, we know what's going on after that.
Yeah, the coming sequences will be determined. I mean, the moment that Allah chooses.
That's not an issue. That's not the issue of that. That's not an issue. That's not an issue. But that is by choice, not dictated by necessity. Otherwise, you have a dead, blind, deaf nature.
Yes.
No other choice.
Okay, I understand. So the first, the initial point, it was by the free choice of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But the moment that He chose the universe to be created this way, it's been determined to be created this way.
Because He determined it already. Khalas, finish is gone in the past. And that's the meaning of qadar. We are not discussing this. We're discussing the first choice.
Okay.
Which is symbolized by the hadith أول ما خلق الله القلم قال اكتب قال ماذا أكتب قال اكتب ما هو جار أو proportion the system إلى يوم القيامة. So he made a choice and dictated to the qalam. This is metaphorical. There's no qalam. I was discussing one Wahhabi. Say Ibn Abbas said there's a tablet 70 years long and so on. Say, what is this tablet? Is it Allah himself or something outside? So we have something eternal tablet before the pen, and he got stuck. Because he doesn't understand the allegorical, metaphoric language. It has just made the decision, I'm choosing this universe, which have these proportions, start. Oh, that's it. B. It happened. But it's symbolized by this very, very eloquent allegorical language, which will give you something to enjoy, as if someone is writing something. That's all just allegorical. A decision is made A choice is made, and the choice is made and say start. خلاص, that's it.
Okay, I clearly understand this one, but let me ask you about this ayah. How can we interpret it if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has the absolute choice to create or not to create in the beginning? When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he says, وَمَا خَلَقْنَا السَّمَاءَ وَالْأَرْضَ وَمَا بَيْنَهُمَا لاعبين. So,
What's the meaning of لاعبين? What's the meaning of لاعبين?
haphazardly.
No, it's just for enjoyment, artistic expression. What do you mean haphazardly? Artistic expression. That's excluded because that will be لاعبين. Artists who draw a picture. Why an artist is motivated to draw a picture? Because he wants to express his capability and verify it in reality. I am capable of drawing something because not everyone is a good artist. I am capable and exercise it. For Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he knows himself that he's absolutely certain, with absolute certainty, that he is able to create, and he able to create various types of universes. All of that is known to him with absolute necessity. He doesn't need to verify it by an action.
He doesn't need to get a verification from his creation.
He is already verified in himself with absolute certainty. And he's certain about his certainty in absolute way. And the certainty about the certainty is an absolute way. Ad infinitum. So no need for update. That's لاعبين. That will be just for enjoyment, expressing oneself.
So this is included. This type of creation is excluded.
So if there is a certain purpose, he shows. That's it. And there may be many purposes, and he shows them. Even if there's only one purpose to test a creation, let's assume that he still have the choice either to create or just not create. Still have a choice. It's not a dead, blind, deaf nature. That's it.
Sure, but then I mean, how can we understand this ayah? Is لاعبين is excluded from his choices?
Because he's not لاعب. That's it. He's not an artistic creation, just something like that. Or throwing dice for enjoyment. That's what a لاعب. So the kid think he may be playing games, just observing this big theater and enjoying that. That's not the way Allah works. So he will bring us something about his nature, his attributes. That's all. Excluding
because لاعبين essentially undermines his divine attribute, right? لاعبين or why?
No, you may imagine that an infinite powerful being can do self-expression. There's no need for that. The Sarina say لو أردنا أن نتخذ له لاتخذناه من لدنا إن كنا فاعلين. We'll not create an universe. We'll make له in myself. I can imagine things and play with it in myself. I don't need to create a universe and test creation and so on. Something else. I can do it otherwise.
Okay, but when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he says we did not create the sky and earth or heaven and earth.
What is he saying? It's created with a certain purpose. That's it.
With a certain purpose, but that goes back to our first initial point, is that
no. With a certain purpose which he shows.
Not compelling purpose. Okay.
That's the point. That's the point. Okay. Forget about all of these things.
Okay.
That's the point. That's it. Otherwise, if it is compulsory, it's a dead, blind, deaf nature.
Yes. Okay.
That's it. That's the two options. Either deaf, blind, dead nature, zero choice, or infinite choice.
Okay.
Now, the details and how it connects to his knowledge and knowing himself and so on, this is so complex, maybe it's unknowable. We will not know it now here, nor in eternity, nor in time, ever.
Okay.
That's it.
Okay, so in other words, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he wanted to create heaven and earth for self-enjoyment and entertainment, he would have been able to, but he decided not to.
He wouldn't.
Because he has the absolute choice, the absolute freedom to do whatever.
That's what he said. This type of just pure enjoyment, play, is not befitting for his divine being.
Yes, indeed.
The same he says, I didn't adopt a child. But if we analyze the meaning of this setting, we know
it's impossible.
It's
impossible.
Maybe we can analyze that deeper, but we don't need it. It's not so. He said it has a certain purpose, not just pure enjoyment and play, whatever that means. So that one is out.
Okay.
Can it be excluded by necessity of reason? Maybe someone can develop a proof. Maybe after a billion of years, someone have developed a proof which fills trillion of volumes. Maybe. I don't care. But the report is clear there.
Yes.
In the case of adopting a son, we don't need a trillion of years. We need only one page to prove that's a
Yeah.
possibility.
Impossible. This one is impossible. Yes.
The other one may be impossible in itself. So,
Maybe to come in later years
but
by some.
what make it this is لو أردنا أن نتخذها ولا اتخذناهم من لدن لكنا فاعلين بل نقذف بالحق على الباطل. So lahu and so on is batil in the divine sense. It does not fit with the fact that the necessary existing being is pure haq, complete haq, no batil whatsoever in it. Let's give the hint. Well,
Yes.
in contingent being, they need some batil. They need relaxation. They need enjoyment because they're deficient. They have shortcoming. They can't be serious and haq continuously. That's impossible because they're finite and limited. But for the infinite being, this doesn't make any sense. So the ayah gives a hint in that direction.
Yeah.
There's another purpose than just play and enjoyment. Whatever play and enjoyment may mean, yes, essentially using words which appeal to the people concept of play and enjoyment. Something which is completely purposeless just for make yourself happy. He doesn't need. He's completely happy with himself for all eternities.
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
That's it. But the question, the purpose, there are various purposes. He's not compelled to any one of them. And if
Yes.
there's only one sensible purpose, like testing the creation, then he still have the choice, yes or no.
Yes or no? Okay.
Otherwise, we have a deaf, blind, dead nature.
Yes. Okay.
The necessary existing being is either a deaf, blind, dead nature, which we exclude by the cosmological proof, but we may be able to exclude by ontological analysis, or a being which has free choice, and because it's necessarily existing, his choice is unlimited.
Unlimited, yes. Okay.
By necessity, otherwise it's contingent.
Yeah, of course. Yes, yes.
Only
Okay,
these two options. That's
Yes,
only two
yes.
options.
Okay, okay. Yeah, you pinpointed the answer for my question. Yes. Now it's clear.
That's the issue, that after the creation, the thing is already done, is already done. That's the meaning of qadar. ايش معنى meaning of qadar as explained by Prophet ﷺ أن تعلم أن ما أصابك لم يكن ليخطئك. Things in the past has happened could not have possibly happened without Allah's permission. Nothing
Yes.
been surprising him or a shock. It's impossible.
Yes, yes. Okay.
It's
Okay.
impossible. Must have his permission before that.
Mm.
That's it. According to a system chosen at the point zero of time at eternity. That's it. All the
Yes.
fine details and complications that can be studied until Yawm al-Qiyamah, no problem. But that's it.
Yes. Okay, okay, clear.
And this does not relate as they confuse qada with qadar. Qada is something else about the future, things which they don't happen. And the hadith are clear. I don't know whether people blind or not. When they read the hadith, the dua wal qada are fighting each other between heaven and earth until Yawm al-Qiyamah. What does this mean? It gives you an image that qada is coming down like a beast. And your dua is going up fighting the qada. Don't come, don't come, don't come. This is all metaphorical.
Yes.
Still, unless the qada is final and irrevocable, the dua may prevent it from happening.
Yes. Is open to change.
Open future.
Yes.
But
yes.
what has happened, forget about it.
Khalas, it's happened.
There's no way it can be changed.
Yes. Okay. But the initial point,
we finish with the initial point. That's
freedom.
it.
Yeah. Yes.
It has to be. Otherwise, it's dead blind.
Has to be.
But the dead blind definition cannot explain the current universe.
Okay.
And the free initial parameters. That's it. There's no way it can explain any universe. It's impossible. That's the cosmological proofs. But I think there will be an ontological proof independent of what the universe is. That a deaf, blind, dead, necessarily existing, what we call nature, because we have either the necessary existing is either a nature, which is a code name for something which has no free will. It's deaf, blind, dead, and there's no sense to attribute to it any knowledge. Doesn't make any sense. What meaning of knowledge? What's the meaning of consciousness? It can't be. It's just like a rock. Dead, blind, deaf nature, or absolutely free. In between is not possible because of necessary existing. For contingent being, there are various ranks of freedom and domain or circle of effectiveness. We have a relatively good wide circle, but it's limited. Being may have a bigger circle. Possibly, there may be some being who can even go faster than light and go from star to star, like in Star Wars. Maybe they are much wider domain, but still it's finite.
Mm.
That's for contingent.
Yes. Okay.
When it's just an existing being, you have either an attribute either fits to utmost perfection, infinitely, we'll call it infinite,
Infinity,
or
yes.
it doesn't exist, it doesn't fit for existence, it is zero.
Exactly. Yes. Yes. Okay.
That's the fundamental point. And then after that, we see what the revelation says. Does he have a certain purpose for us? Does he want to address us or not? That's another issue. We can see what the revelation says, what may be reason, say, on balance, this is more probable, less probable. You can study as much as you like. You can study as much as you like. That's okay. But start with the correct point of view. So only one necessary existing,
Yes. Okay.
and there's only one of these two types, nature or a divine being. Nature is not a divine being because it's deaf, blind, dead. A divine being is a concept in divine being is a being who has free will. In that case, it's just infinite and have knowledge and conscious.
Free choice.
Free choice. That's
absolute free choice.
And has knowledge, because choice does not make any sense unless you have knowledge of what can be chosen or not be chosen. So he has knowledge. In eternity, he knows all contingencies. He knows all necessities, himself and necessities, and all contingencies. That's it.
Yes.
Later on, new things come along the way. A leaf falls, he knows it has fallen and so on.
Okay. Clear, inshallah. Clear. Alhamdulillah.
Yeah, that's it. So that's the issue. Issue is not is what a Mu'tazila said, what Abu Muhammad has tried to answer, but he answered in the wrong and bad way. That's a bad answer. It's simply the various universes cannot be ordered in a line. One is superior in some aspect, another superior in other. What the balance? He makes the balance. He makes
absolutely. Yes.
And none is he is not compelled in anyone. He has the freedom. Now what happened? The choice is done. And when the people came, people of Yemen, he said, Bani Tamim iqbal bushra zay bashartana fa'atina. They are greedy, they want money. And then he turned to the people of Yemen, say, iqbal bushra, since Bani Tamim did not accept the bushra. So what the Yemeni are intelligent. They said, we came not to receive anything or get anything. We came to ask you about the beginning of this amr, this state of affair, this universe, this, what is this? And of course, I understood what they mean. We said, قال كان الله ولم يكن شيء قبله. Allah existed, nothing is before him. He used the word before him as if something before him could be a possibility. A time before him is an impossibility.
Impossible, yes.
It's impossible. So it's starting the point we call the point of eternity.
Yes.
Then وكتب في الذكر كل شيء. كل شيء meaning the proportion of the system, as we know. And the hadith مقادير specify it comes to كل شيء, everything, all events and مقادير. وخلق السماوات والأرض ثم استوى على العرش. So that's it. That's why he explained how this affair. What we're interested really is what was there at any point of eternity. Not that he created the universe. We know that he created the universe. The most important, what was there, the beginning point. That's the point. He makes that fundamental decision about the system to be chosen from various contingent universes.
So essentially, when Prophet ﷺ, he said, "وَلَمْ يَكُنْ شَيْئًا قَبْلَهُ," shay is not even imaginary. It's not even imaginable.
Yeah, it's impossible. Nothing is
impossible.
But we linguistically we resolved it before, but it's pointing to any possibility.
Yes, logically is impossible, but linguistically it
is again a linguistic illusion.
It can be understood.
It is a linguistic illusion, as I explained about the square, circle, etc.
Absolutely.
Your imagination goes, what is before the point of eternity? Because it seems what there is some finite point. The point of eternity is not time yet. The moment time starts,
it's nothing.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's going forward, not backward. And that's what kills all these theories which make time going from minus infinity to plus infinity. They will fail. Even in physics, they will fail. But this is another issue. Physics will show that it's already have shown to be failing anyway in many experiments and many cosmological observations. But that's it.
Okay. Yes.
So,
Yes.
the decision is, the moment you prove that a necessary existing must be there, because the whole reality of contingent being is impossible. That's by infinite regress and other more deep lying issues, not extremely deep, but available, and they have proofs for them and so on, in mathematical level. Okay, then we must have a starting entity or several entities of necessary existing, but the concept of necessary existence can apply to only one entity, maximum. So we must have few necessary existing and maximum one. So this means we have exactly one. Now, this one is one of the possible types concerning matter of consciousness and free will and so on. Concept of consciousness, free will, we know by internal introspection, استبطان. They are ill-defined unless we have consciousness and free will. So
Absolutely.
this thing is either that have there two befitting for an necessary existing being, or none of that. Dead, deaf, blind nature. Nothing else. That's the two options. There's no other two options in this matter. That the reality started with a deaf, blind, dead nature. First of all, ontologically, it seems to be impossible, but maybe the proof is more complex. But cosmologically, from that, what we see, it must go to an initial choice. So it must be a chooser. It cannot be just a deaf, blind, dead. If it's a chooser, it's then an ultimate chooser by necessity, because it's an existing, back to the same principle. That's it. So we have only these two options. A reality which is only contingent is impossible, eternally contradictory. So we have to have one by the Burhan, by the evidences, one is an existing being. No more, no less. What is this? What type of it is? Is it something like which we can attribute some sense of something like knowledge and consciousness and so on, like we feel in ourselves by step one, by looking at ourselves, or it is like a machine? You would say machine needs someone moving it. It can't move by itself. All machines we know in the universe, but maybe this necessarily existing machine can start moving by itself. Let's assume that. That's the ontological proof will prove that is impossible. Let us assume that. But then the universe is having optional starting points, optional parameters. There must be a chooser. There's no way to get out of that. There is no way to escape from that.
Yes.
So he must be a chooser. If a chooser, he must know what he's choosing. So we are back to a divine being. Either a nature or a divine being. That's the only.
When the atheists try to escape, they said multi-universe.
It doesn't help, because every universe, if they are interacting, then show us how they interact and bring. If they are completely separate, none of them knows about the other one. Each one of them is contingent and needs a starting point, whatever you do. Claiming we happen to be in a lucky one accidentally, maybe, but that lucky one, how it did emerge from the deaf, blind, deadness, from the nature. There must be a choice for that, and for the other one a choice, another choice, for the third one a choice.
Goes back to the same problem.
Even worse, because instead of solving a problem for one universe, you are having infinite many universes and you need to solve all of them. It's just absurd. It's just running from it. It's just appealing to the stupidity of many people, especially scientists.
Okay, subhanallah. Yes. Okay, alhamdulillah, clear now, alhamdulillah. Jazakallah khair, barakallah feek.
That's the point here there. But we are past that. This is the foundation thing. What is really is maybe still needed is there if someone could develop the ontological proof independent from the universe and the initial conditions. I think it can be developed, but it's more complex than the so-called Saint Anselm proof. Saint Anselm proof is having certain problems. It looks good, but it's not enough. It needs to be done differently. It may need several pages, maybe 100 pages and things like that, but it needs some work. The cosmological one is clear now. It's clear. The moment you establish the issue of nature of time, and both the external time we measure and the internal time we perceive by step time, it must have a starting point, and the starting point is eternity, and the time started at eternity, that's 0 plus. And if from looking from here, we're going to the limit. That's the problem with the ancient people had, that they did not get yet the limit theory correctly, or using the other language which were used in the 20th century and the 18th and 19th century and so on, infinitesimally distance of time. Whatever language you use, standard analysis with limits or the one with infinitely small quantities, whatever, then time started. But looking from here, you go to a singularity. There's no way. And we have a mathematical model for that. Look at the definition of the logarithm. The logarithm is defined first for real numbers. It is defined for positive real numbers. If you go to 0 for the domain, it diverges. It cannot be defined for negative ones. Mathematicians try to extend the logarithm into the complex plane. It extends, and it has a very complex definition domain, yes, but the negative axis had to be cut out of the domain. There's no negative axis. There's nothing qablahu. There's no qablahu. The negative axis had to be cut. If you're interested in that, study a little bit of mathematics and go to complex analysis and go to the Riemannian surface of the logarithm. Any logarithm, natural or the base 10 logarithm, any one of the variable is only defined for, even defined for complex numbers, but not negative numbers. It's impossible to define.
Yes.
It's impossible to define. You can do whatever you want, to all possible acrobatics and extensions. You can extend everywhere, become even multiple valued because it's periodical in the complex. And you have infinite many so-called Riemannian leaves. But when you come to the negative axis, you have to make a jump. The axis is cut. It's an infinitely deep and infinitely narrow ditch or canyon. There's no definition for pure negative. So log minus 3 does not exist. It's an impossibility. It cannot be defined by any way or means. Okay? That's it. It's undefinable. So the singularity here is a cut. They call it a cut. Cut from 0 to minus infinity is completely cut. The opposite of the logarithm is the exponential function. It has an essential singularity at the infinity. So the essential singularity at the infinity, when you take the reverse function with the logarithm, is the opposite of the exponential function, because the definition of logarithm is that e to the power x, if you apply the logarithm, the ln of e to the power x is equal x, is the reverse of the function. The reverse will have a cut. But there's no way to escape that. And the exponential function has an essential singularity far away. Unsurmountable singularity. When you go to the infinite far away in the complex plane, if you extend the complex plane, it goes sometimes to 0, sometimes to infinity. It fluctuates indefinitely. It converges, diverges in every possible direction, behave differently. That's called essential singularity. It's an essential singularity. Turning back to the reverse, you have to cut the plane at the negative. That's for the logarithm. There are other functions we are aware of that, but this model is very clear.
Yes.
So you have a mathematical representation of a model which exists and can be studied mathematically, and which the negative axis must be removed from the differential. So time cannot be in the absolute time, starting from eternity, cannot be a negative time, because negative time does not exist. It's an impossibility. Although your imagination always will try to get you in trouble, like in time say there are events without beginning or so. This is all nonsense. This is all imagination running. That's a mental optical illusion, because you close your eyes and think I can do something, but I can't go back. You can't go back. So your imagination is fooling you.
So the scientists, when they let their imagination go wild and they talk about the black hole or something, and then you can
no, black hole is okay. That's you can measure and so on. But most likely the theory, because based on the theory of relativity, it may be a good approximation, but it's cannot apply to the whole universe, because assume the time go from minus infinity to plus infinity, which is not possible.
Yes.
Locally is okay. Locally it works for short times. Short times meaning like months, years, 100 years, million years, but not billions of years. It starts failing. And local in matter of distance, something like the the distance between Earth and Sun, maybe half the galaxy, is okay. The moment you go to the whole universe, it starts failing also. So generalization, making it absolute
Absolute is impossible.
will fail. And it has failed. It has failed. The certain observation of certain extremely luminous quasars and so on shows that quantum mechanics, which work with absolute time, still applies, but relativity seems to be having problems, which is expected. It's a good approximation locally. Locally does not mean really only in the lab. It can be even in the solar system and around and so on, even the local galaxy.
But mathematically is correct, even not locally. I mean, beyond locally, right?
Yeah, you can do a mathematical structure and study it and get a conclusion, and the result get nonsense sometimes. Like, for example, you could construct based on theory of relativity. You can try to classify various universes. One of them is a rotating universe. That's a Gödel universe. In that, you have closed time loop. You can go to the past. So someone asked Gödel, if I can't go to the past, I can go and kill my grandfather. So how can I come to existence? So Gödel, being mischievous and a little bit, what they call it, witty, said, "Oh, God will step in and prevent that from happening." Meaning it's impossible, but he did not express it this way. Anyway, Google has a twisted mind also. It's one of the deepest and sharpest minds ever in history, especially in the 20th century. No doubt about that. And that's the reason he became mental at the end of his life. He thought people want to poison him, and he did not eat until he died on starvation. The same with the next big mind, which is Alain Grothendieck, the French mathematician. In his later years, he was firmly believed that there are people coming from another star to occupy the Earth. So he was left in the mountains between France, what they call Bernese, between France and Spain, to be ready to observe those coming until he died there.
Yeah, subhanallah.
They went overboard. But anyway, from that we conclude, since that's an impossibility, I need God to step in and prevent it, meaning there's some problem with the theory in its pure form. Because it's talked about the type of the universe, global solution. It has a disease.
They calculated in the negative, in the negative axis.
Assume time for minus infinity to plus infinity is like
minus infinity. Yeah,
that can't exist. That's
impossible. Yeah.
The moment you get in that, sooner or later, when you revive the whole universe, you will have models which are far away from reality, and models for good approximation to reality and so on, like the sitter universe and things like that. That you may get good approximation, but this Gödel rotating universe is just manifestly absurd and impossible. But it's a solution of the Einstein equation. Solution of Einstein. So it's an impossible, meaning the basic theory in its generalization to the full reality fails, meaning there's some problem. What is the problem? My theory is that the problem is the time is treated as if it is space, and this is a fallacy. Space goes from minus infinity to plus infinity, like the x-axis and the y-axis is the same, for simple reason, because where you start measuring space. Imagine you're sitting on the chair and looking right and left. Where you start a measurement? You start measuring from here, and you go right 1 meter, 2 meter, 3 meter, and you go left, and you call it minus 1 meter, minus 3 meter. But you have all the starting point for both directions. The same with X, Y, the same with up, down, Z. For time, it's not possible. Time started before you existed and came where you did not exist and you didn't have any input there. So you cannot imagine going back, but just by imagination. It's impossible to go back physically, in reality.
Yes.
So, but your imagination thinks I can treat it like I'm treating space. Space can go minus
like X, Y, Z.
Because somehow you think you start time from your place, but that's not how time started. Because time started without your existence, even before your existence.
Yes, of course.
But space, the center of coordinate, you can put it anywhere. I put it in my place, and someone else put it in his place in New York. Another one in the system, Hot system in Star Wars, put it there. And we can transfer to each other by usual translation law. That's not a problem. It has always a start for both directions.
Mm.
Time has a start there, left, far away, far back in time.
Mm.
Assuming it goes to minus infinity, then it has no start. It has start and no start. And you get a contradiction. You
Yes.
get impossibilities. And that's it. By the way, the Nobel Prize man who's still alive, I think he did not die yet, Penrose, is trying to say time goes without beginning in that sense. And he essentially adopting the Hindu philosophical point of view that time is circular and it goes without beginning and end. But it's a great contradiction. That's impossible. So it has to be a beginning. But he could not overcome the mental optical illusion that it has to go without beginning. No, this is just a mental optical illusion. Because the negative axis has to be cut away. You have to train yourself to accept what is dictated by necessity of mathematics, logic, and rationality. And that is you cannot get it in your head and imagine it. Bad luck. But that's all what's there. It does work inconsistently, doesn't get any contradiction. Look at the mathematics. Go take the example of the logarithm. It works. For time, it's very difficult. When you go to the temperature, absolute temperature, when we go to the absolute zero of temperature, you cool and become more difficult to go. You never reach absolute zero. Someone could ask, what is below absolute zero? The answer is nothing. It's absolute, is an impossibility. Absolute zero is the utmost bottom temperature. There's no temperature colder than absolute zero. But for temperature, it's easy because you can watch it in the lab and see it in front of you. It works a little bit. You can deal with it. But with time, it's very difficult because you cannot deal with the past. That's it. It's just a matter of human limitation.
Mm. So
you want to control it, you want to hold it in your hand strongly, you have to work with strict rationalism, meaning with logic and mathematics.
Absolutely. So check this one out. This guy, Roger Penrose, he received that 2020 Nobel Prize in Physics for the discovery that the black hole formation is a robust prediction of the general theory of relativity.
Yeah, that's okay. That's okay. That's no problem. Locally and near the black hole, general relativity apply to a very good approximation.
Mm. But I remember once you said relative to what? They have to set like a fixed point.
Yeah. That's a philosophical aspect. We should mention that. The best thing say you go in time past, you have to go to the absolute zero. There's no escape. There's nothing before absolute zero. It's an impossibility. Penrose said no. But he tried to explain that because he is an atheist. He wants to get rid of God. Move God out, keep the time without beginning. It doesn't help because it's an impossibility.
Yes. Okay.
That's the problem with it. But applying black holes and so on and relativity to black holes and robust analysis, yes, absolutely. You can calculate. You can develop the theory. Yeah, it's easy. No problem.
Okay.
It's an excellent approximation locally. But not for the whole reality.
Yes. But even for the black hole, it doesn't require the time axis, right?
No, it requires. But locally, you can be approximated by time axis goes from minus infinity for calculation. Minkowski space, you can, or around. That's not a problem. Local approximation.
Okay.
That's easy. Anyway, if you study this area, you will know how to manage that. That's not a problem. Anyway, humans are not able to deal with complicated surfaces and structures in space except by using local linear approximation to map locally to a flat space and study and then move to another point. And then the shift is done by certain vectors and very complicated ways and so on. But ultimately is that the question, the whole universe is not
impossible.
It's not flat. It's impossible. It is curved in a complicated way, and the time goes to zero. That's you have to get that.
Okay.
But for black holes, for gravitation, for Mercury movements, for satellites, and so on, it's more that you can use Newton, and if necessary, just the next correction from relativity. You don't need even fourth order, sixth order, 10th order. You don't need even those. It would suffice for technical purposes. For black hole, you need to go a little bit deeper, maybe, but that's all.
Yes. Okay, interesting, interesting. MashaAllah, MashaAllah. Very knowledgeable. Jazakallah khair.
Yeah,
Jazakallah khair.
yeah. But fundamental is that the necessary existing being is only one. There must be one, because otherwise a purely contingent reality or universe or state of affair is impossible. It's an impossibility. So there will be one. And then we have only two possible types imaginable. The one who's of divine type, that's
Nothing.
Omniscient, free agent, absolute free, with power and so on. This is necessary. Otherwise, nothing can
We
be
need to
created
hear.
up to power and so on with these attributes. Or it is a deaf, blind nature. That other one can be excluded, at least until now, sufficiently, in that the current universe cannot be originated by such an entity. So,
Assalamu alaikum. On the question of shirk, I'm just trying to collect all the information we've gone through so far in book 1 and 2. So there were four categories of shirk, 4 levels of shirk. So far, the highest one is shirk on something that you cannot know, which is, as you said today, making a claim that Allah has a son, because it is categorically impossible. The
yeah,
other levels that I've noted so far
all of
is
them are impossible. The other one is that regarding the necessary existing being, also ancient or eternal.
so that was the next one I was going to say. The question, the thingy,
Impossible.
messing up with the attributes of Allah, what his qualities are, that is also shirk. So to say that he can't choose
No, we
something
do
when he
not
can.
discuss attribute of Allah. No, go slow. Son, divine son, genuinely divine son is impossible, because the divine cannot have it's not an essence, it's only one being. And there's no way to get that being to split or cut in pieces or something like that. That's impossible. That's number one. And also other deity who shall compete and undermine each other completely, like the Surah Al-Mu'minun, that's also a possibility, because the necessary existing being is only one. Good?
Yeah.
Remains a type who some Mushrikeen said that a created being, which was created, started in time, not from eternity, like a bad idea jumping out and becoming a shaitan, or shaitan being created and rebel against Allah, or at least can run away from Allah. This is impossible. Some people believe it exists, but it can be shown that it's an impossibility. It's not possible.
I see. So, and on that specifically, Allah refers to it in multiple places. So, for example, there's no Shafi'ir, no Wali, like the Christians and the Jews have said.
That's based on that. No. That's the Wahhabi point of it. That's not the correct way, because they have.
Sorry, no. I meant as in he's referred to it.
We will get to that. Don't leave this. And the other ones, because the Shafi' and the Wali, they proclaim are the sons and daughters of Allah anyways, going to that divinity. And this is their function according to the claim. So this is secondary. The next one is the someone who declares himself to be Lord beside Allah. That exists as an entity, but his claim is false. And the Yawm al-Qiyamah, it will be proven to everyone, but that he's dumped in the hellfire. And also idols, effigies and idols, which the Mushrikeen believe they have divinity due to connection. They are conduit to the divine, which is some entity in the stars or something like that, or they by contact, that the divine can come in them and be in them really. In the case of Maryam, because it was in her belly as a divine being, so she's the mother of God by infection, by contact, and that also does not exist. And in the case of idols, they are not conscious being. They will be thrown in the hellfire as fuel. It's not a punishment for them, because in the case of someone inviting people to regard him as a divine, he will go into the hellfire in front of the people who worshipped him or regarded him as a lord, actually, a lord beside Allah, and he has the right of legislation. Because this is a false attribution. That's the attribution. In the case of Maryam, those who declare to be mother of God, that's their mischief. Maryam has not done that. She don't tell him, I am the mother of your God. They fabricated that of their imagination. There's nothing even quoted from her of any significance in the books they have in their hand. Barely any quotation somewhere. That's their sick construction. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah. And just to clarify,
The other things that we talk about shafa'a and wali and so on, this is only consequence of something else.
yes.
Yeah.
Back to the question of shirk. The other one that I can remember is the action specifically doing haram knowingly, after knowing that it is haram for you.
What do you mean doing haram? Has nothing to do with shirk now. That's something else.
Okay.
That's ma'siyah. Legislating, allowing haram, that's shirk. You make yourself Lord beside Allah.
Okay.
You mean that?
Ma'siyah.
You mean that? For example, a person.
No, I'm just trying to separate it because the action itself, because remember, trying to move away from the thing. The action itself is not shirk.
A person may believe zina is haram and they commit zina. He's asi. A person believes prohibition of zina is nonsense. It should be allowed. And he doesn't commit zina. He's sincere to his wife. He's a mushrik and kafir and legislating for himself beside Allah. And if he invites the people to accept his point of view and lead in that, he has appointed himself Lord beside Allah. Okay? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, that's just trying to clarify, because you know how people go through stages. They say, "Oh, they go down a slippery slope." They say it's not as bad. They do it, then they try and justify it just to see the stages of it.
How it develops in reality is another issue. As long as he believes it's haram and he has no authority to make the haram halal, he's still sinner.
He's still just a sinner. Okay.
The moment he declares, I don't bother about what Allah has commanded, I am going to allow myself that. He becomes, to point himself, Lord beside Allah. He's worshipping himself. He's making his hawa ilah. أَمَنِ اتَّخَذَ إِلَهُ هَوَى. That's it. And the demarcation line is sharp. That's it.
Yeah, that's clarified everything so far.
Yeah, it's clear. You find someone committing, for example, zina. Say, Shaykh, ittaqillah, you are committing zina. Say, come on. You still believe in the old woman fairy tales? He's a kafir mushrik. And pointing himself Lord beside Allah. Or following someone who made the theory and so on. This is all nonsense and so on. So adopting the other one as Lord beside Allah. Simple. It's clear. Doesn't need. So what the Wahhabi say and so on. Like I know a very noble lady here in London. I don't mention her now. She said, even smoking may have aspect of shirk because you love the cigarette more than Allah. This is bullshit. BS. Even DS.
You know, that's because they have the ill definition that worship is love and adoration.
We will come to that, but even if that doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense.
Yes.
Because allegedly it's ultimate love. What's the meaning? And then you can refute that. Maybe you are enslaving yourself. That's fine. Ultimate dhul is enslaving yourself. That may make sense. But for example, those who make sacrifice to the shaitan to escape his mischief and so on, they hate him. They don't love him, but they still mushrik because they think if we don't do sacrifice to him, he may harm us, and Allah is unable to protect us. That's the point. So he has a divine attribute which is false. It doesn't exist, but exists in the mind of the one do it. The moment he gets to that level, it is khalas, he's done. He's a mushrik.
Yes.
Yeah.
But even that, but even the ultimate adoration or ultimate love doesn't make sense because let's take the example.
No, doesn't make sense. Finish. I mentioned the example of the devil for that.
Yeah, but let's take the example of nicotine. He doesn't love it. He's used to it because of the effect of nicotine.
Don't worry about that. Answer the fundamental question and check the rest on the bin. If you go into these fine points, you will go into spirituality and Sufism and secluding in a cave. Oh, that's will not get to shirk. Unless the Sharia define, like the shirk al-Khafi. What's the secret shirk? Which doesn't take up to the full Islam. You do an act which you want to please Allah, but you would like the people to see it and praise you for that. That will undermine that act and annihilates reward. Does not make you a mushrik and out of fold of Islam.
No. I mean the smoker. He loves to smoke because of dependence to nicotine.
No. This is nonsense. We should not answer nonsense. The Messenger of Allah mentioned something called shirk al-Khafi. If he mentioned shirk khafi, which does not take you out of the fold of Islam, and fail to mention shirk al-qubur or shirk of enjoying eating something in excess, then meaning that what you say is nonsense. Finish.
Yes.
It can't be the one who brought the Tawheed to its utmost precision and clarity will miss that. So you must have missed something. That's the way to answer. Don't go into analyzing the smoker loves or don't love and so on. These will not get you anywhere.
Yeah, otherwise Allah would have been not completed his religion. اليوم لم أكمل لكم دينكم عياذا بالله.
Yeah. The messenger of Allah who is one of his titles Al-Mahi, the one who erases shirk. Even something which nobody would regard as a shirk in the classical sense, الشرك الخفي. الشرك فيكم أخفى من دبيب النمل. There's many hadiths متواتر. That الشرك الخفي is riya. And we know riya will annihilate your work, that specific work. Other works are still valid. You are not out of the full Islam. Until all your action is riya, then you are obviously khalas. Even your iman is riya. You are belonging to Islam just to live in the society peacefully. That's it. And you don't want to immigrate to the domain of kufr. Then genuinely you are a kafir. That's something else. If that's already mentioned by the Messenger of Allah, and his name is Amahi, so how come that we don't have any hadith or anything talking about grave worship? Okay?
Yeah. Let alone being hadith qat'i, not a mere hadith.
Even fabricated. Ask them, get me even a fabricated hadith.
Yeah, even fabricated. Yes.
Which talk about shirk al-qubur. It's none.
Nothing. Yeah, subhanallah. Yeah.
They made me think the story of the Lat. Story of Lat is not a hadith Nabawi. It's Ibn Abbas reporting what the Arab had, which is the wrong report, and we'll discuss it at nauseam in the Bab Shirk al-Arab. We'll get there, inshallah. And we expose the story and clarify it 100%. So they have nothing. It's just utter stupidity, if not utter clear kufr. But we'll get to that, inshallah. And they'll get you in attributes and so on, Tawheed Sifat, and they'll get you go around. And if you check all their books, there's nowhere mentioning of declaring someone to be the son or the daughter of Allah to be shirk. Or there's a mere majority of shirk Arab is done this time. All their idols, Uzza, Lat, and so on, they are not just the effigy. They are supposed to be the housing or the connector to Al-Uzza, which is some kind of a heavenly entity or a mix of heavenly and a satanic entity. We'll get that to Shirk Arab, inshallah. You will see a story which let your hair raise up. And that's the reason they made him Shufa'a. That's the reason they use him as mediator, etc. And Wali, and so on, the guardian, and so on.
Yeah, the Mushrikeen used to think that they can intercede without Allah's permission because they have some divine attributes, but that's why
because of the divine attributes. That's the shirk.
Yeah. That's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when he talks about interceding, he says,
without permission.
Without my permission. Yes.
Because he can grant intercession for someone just to give him standing around Qiyamah and give him a high rank. That's it.
High rank, yes, absolutely. Yeah,
that's it. It's within the divine capabilities, no problem. He can do. But they claim it is without his permission because they are the divine essence. They have a word at their father. He has to listen to them. Otherwise, how come that they are the beloved daughters and son? He has a soft spot for them. They're divine ultimately. Obviously, so in a confused way and so on, but that's essentially what it goes to.
So this is absolute shirk, not like the stupidity that because they acknowledge Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the creator, then they must have had Tawheed Rububiyyah.
We will come to that, Sheikh. Wait for
yes. Okay.
To that. You are in a hurry for things which need to be done systematic, that these guys will be annihilated. We want to annihilate them. And it doesn't go by hurrying things and then getting confused. Bit by bit. It's laborious, but it has to be. Especially those who are carrying da'wah, those who are a little bit sophisticated, those who have high school and so on. And then these can explain things in a similar language to the common people. And then the Wahhabis will disappear. The best thing is just what the Shabab have mocked them and say, you claim Allah is a man who was doing sawiq for Hujjaj, a good man. In reality, the narration showed that he was actually an idol guardian, an idol worshipper. He's not a good man in the first place. But in the middle of that, and okay, but in the same time, we have many evidences that believe that Lat is a female, and even we have a worker swearing at a man, say, suck the clitoris of the Lat. So how come a man is have a clitoris? Just as a mockery. This is what you call it rhetorical argument to make the other side look bad.
Yes.
I can tell them, but Messenger of Allah is mahi shirk, and he mentioned so many types of shirk, including the khafi. Yeah? And the Quran mentioned very many types of shirk. Can you give us even a fabricated hadith which use the word shirk al-qubur? So you are inventing something. It's a bid'ah. Or the Messenger of Allah did not bring the message in complete. Choose one. Or he's an imposter. Just tell us your choice, and then we deal with you accordingly. That's it. That's what's called the rhetorical way to force someone in the corner.
Yes. It's a good way. It's a good way.
It's a good way. It's a good way for a general to tease
for the less sophisticated.
But does not negate that there's a need to clarify this thing and go to the depth of things.
From the roots, yes.
What we are doing. So, because going to the depth is not only against the Wahhabis, also to establish what's the real essence of Tawheed and the main issue with the messengers, the prophets were addressing. That's it. And then we'll see what they are addressing really. And also another joke the Shabab said. They say, you said Quraysh has no shirk of rububiyyah. Okay? So Abu Jahl in the grave will survive because they will ask, Man Rabbuk? Rabbi Allah. He has no shirk of rububiyyah.
Yes.
That's the first question. He will pass at least the first question. So what's your problem with that? Obviously, this is again a joke, but it's clear. It's clear because the question is Man Rabbuk. And also the question of fitrah. What's impressed in the structure of the mind and the genes and so on. Alastu bi rabbikum? Obviously, it's subconscious. It is not enough to doom someone in Yawm al-Qiyamah, as the Wahhabis claim, because they regard shirk cannot be. There's no excuse of jihad because Muhammad Wahhab was killing the people left and right center, ignored or non-ignored, and they have to justify that. So they developed the theory, mithaq al-fitra, khalas, no excuse for jihad. A mushrik is going to Jahannam anyway, even if he's far away. And Amazon never heard about Islam or any prophet. So, Mithaq al-Fitra, what's the question Allah direct to the creation before they become conscious? Or metaphorical for how it's imprinted in the genes. Am
I not your Lord?
Alastu bi rabbikum.
Yeah.
You get stuck in.
Yes.
And the rest of the essay, that you don't say Yawm al-Qiyamah, we're unaware about that, essentially meaning Yawm al-Qiyamah, I can argue with you, I have imprinted that in your genes and your structure, and still you ignored that. I gave you an excellent head start, and still you failed. That's the meaning of it. Not that it's alone sufficient for dooming someone. Because the other ayah clarify that. مَا كُنَّا مُعَذِّبِينَ حَتَّى نَبْعَثَ رَسُولًا. And the Wahhabis came with a funny story saying, this is actually عذاب الدنيا. Okay, عذاب الدنيا, which is limited, will happen only if you have a messenger. What's about عذاب الآخرة, which is almost unlimited? These people are jokers. If you get stuck in the wrong direction, the best way is to slam on the brake and start reversing. If you get stubborn, you will get yourself in an infinite problem. An infinite set of problems. That's it. And they got themselves an infinite set of problems.
Yes.
But we'll get to all of that, inshallah, in more detail, in an academically sound way. Discuss Shirk al-Arab, how the shirk has come, the story of Amr ibn Lahi al-Khuza'i, as reported by the Messenger of Allah, what are the components of the story, and so on, and then address the Lat, and so this is an Arabic fairy tale. And the hadith in Bukhari is even not connected, is not from even Ibn Abbas. We'll get all of that, inshallah. So just relax, step by step, one by one.